Oh yeah, Trump mentioned me. God, I didn't even realize I'm live for the first time since that happened. What a time to be alive, huh? Yeah, a lot has happened. A lot has happened since yesterday. Yeah, Trump mentioned me at a rally. Everyone on the Republican side wants to assassinate me with a gun. They want to kill me with a weapon. Yeah. Hey, can you crash out at Asmongold being unbanned and having a happy relationship so I can watch another Peak Pegasus video about you crashing out? K, thanks. What? What? Why would I do that? Oh, I'm so angry. I'm so angry. Is that good? I'm honestly shocked it took this long for Trump to mention you after the daily Fox News coverage. I know. But yeah, that's it. There's just so much shit going on in the world, and my brain is completely fried. And I haven't been myself. This tour has taken a lot out of me. I don't know why. Maybe it's the travel, you know? Trump just handed the liberals a win in the upcoming Quebec provincial elections. Oh, I know. I know. My brain is so fried. The fake outrage about Charlie Kirk shit when you've been doing it like 3 times a week, 30K people for 10 months. It's not just me doing it. Everyone does it. If anything, I'm more respectful to Charlie Kirk than Erica Kirk is. I'm more respectful to Charlie Kirk than virtually every goddamn Republican out there who has tried to fill his shoes. You know what I mean? Yeah, these guys are all goddamn grifters. Anyway, we'll talk about Quebec. We'll talk about how. Um, let's be real. Going forward, it's going to be impossible to defeat the liberals. Mark Carney is probably permanent premier, permanent Grand Vizier of Canada, permanent leader of Canada forever. But yeah, let's blast off. And let's get it started. It's gonna be a shorter day anyway. It's Sunday fun day. Every time SpongeBob photoshops his face onto someone to keep tweet caption, it says, "Is that?" It gets like 100K likes. I know. We want Avi. Yeah, I want Avi too. But let's be real. Every time Trump attacks Canada and specifically Quebec, like a big part of the reason why liberals win in Canada is because um liberals are the premier defenders, the primary defenders of like francophones in Quebec, and that's where a big part of them. What is this? Professor Dave dropped another bomb today.
Hey
Probably
everyone,
why all
it's
the
been a minute
orbiters
since
are mad about you. Um, is it? Is that what's going on? New Professor Dave video hit the timeline. It's 3 hours. Jesus Christ, 2 hours and 43 minutes. Yeah, I saw Jake Lang get his shit rocked. Cover the fun things from the tour so far instead of slob haters. Man, I'm just so fucking tired. I am so goddamn tired. I don't know what else to say other than I'm just tired. Seattle was amazing. The fans were amazing. The crowd was amazing. And we went out to get hot pot afterwards, and I ate the hot pot, but so did my pants. My pants that I'm wearing currently are covered in hot pot oils. I'm still thinking about the hot pot. I'm not gonna lie, it was so good. Yeah. And now we're here. How was San Fran day one, Unc? San Fran was also amazing. It's really good. The crowds are amazing. Did you go to Heidi Lao? No, we went to a different kind of hot pot, but it was better. It was better than Heidi Lao. Born to be a theater kid. So it's becoming clearer who really wanted this tour to happen. What is? I had to hit that opera. Yeah. I had to hit the opera. I had to hit the opera lines, dude. It's so cringe. Fuck you. I was at the Seattle Opera House. Fuck you mean? Theater kid in a prison of his own making. It's true. Hi. The cats are here. Yeah. Hit that Pavarotti. Pavarotti. I didn't see the VIP packages for tonight until after I purchased. Can I meet you guys? I was one of the first. I don't handle any of that stuff. Chatter. This platform might actually explode on Kirkiversary.
Counting or not counting gang violence.
So funny that conservatives are like, how dare you guys sing We Are Charlie Kirk at a rally? I don't even know what to say about this. Like, do they not know that basically what happened is, like, you know, everybody was shocked, everybody was horrified by his assassination, myself included, you know? I watched it damn near real time as it was unfolding. And then the conservatives went in extra hard and were like, oh, you literally have to say Charlie Kirk is awesome or else we'll fire you. And then everyone was like, yeah, actually, no, that's kind of dumb. Yeah, we're not going to do that. And then because the conservative movement was so aggressive in their posture, so aggressive in their hagiography, so aggressive in their martyrization of Charlie Kirk, that there was like an understandable, dare I say, inevitable backlash to it, where people responded by, you know, Kirkification memes, making Kirkifications happen. The answer to this isn't to say, oh, he's been jamming to the Charlie Kirk shit for months. Who gives a fuck? You guys are being so silly with that. The answer to that is you're pearl clutching. You're pearl clutching because this isn't him like belittling Charlie Kirk's assassination or mocking Charlie Kirk's assassination or celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination. This is, you know, carrying the flame. Republicans hate when, you know, when people give back like a fraction of the energy that they put out there. Charlie Kirk is now a character in internet brain rot. Children see Kirk on the same level as Tung Tung Sahur. The war is over, guys. Nobody cares about the cult of reverence anymore. They haven't since a month after he died. Exactly. So I don't know what the fuck these guys are holding on to. And I think another part of the reason why it just, you know, what I guess, like, you know, I guess they would be less mad if I had fireworks on stage like his wife. Like, is that the only way to honor it? Is that why they were mad? Because I was singing the song, but I didn't have the accompanying flares? Is that why? I think it would help to reiterate your anti-vigilante justice. Man, shut the fuck up. Shut your bitch ass up, 64 month subscriber. What are you, fucking stupid? You think these guys give a fuck? You think anybody gives a shit about anything? What do you want me to do? Start every fucking day by being like, I hate vigilante justice. I am against the death penalty. I am anti-war every day? Every day, dude? Should I start every day with that? Reiterate my positions. You think these cocksuckers give a shit? They don't. They don't fucking care. I know you're probably being nice and you think this will be helpful. Anyway. Yeah, I think this is them gearing up for the Kirkiversary. They're going to do a new wave of manufactured outrage for the Kirkiversary, you know? You need to do a Kirkland acknowledgement? Yeah. I mean, this is about to be one AK, dude. One after Kirk. We're in the BK right now. This is literally one BK, by the way. This is one before Kirk, right? Technically. Well, not one. This is the end of one AK. It's about to We're about to enter year one. We're in zero, AK, zero after Kirk. We're still in zero after Kirk. We're about to be in one after Kirk. So, yeah, you didn't stop in Kirkland while in Seattle. 9/10 is literally the worst catastrophe that happened in the month of September in this country. Yeah, in like the last 30, 40 years, honestly. They're demons. They're hypocrites. They hold nothing sacred but demand that you do. There's no pleasing these jackals. They are in reality thousands of times worse than what they pretend to think woke one was or whatever with respect to cancel culture. Yeah. This is the one where he comes back, actually. Yeah. It's just like, it's tough. It's tough for me to act the way you want me to act with like respect and reverence when you have no respect, you know? And I don't even mean like, oh, this is hypocritical. You guys don't show any respect to anybody. I just mean like you didn't show respect to Charlie Kirk. You know what I mean? Yeah, I always disagreed with him. I don't think he should have been fucking assassinated. And, you know, I made that very clear from the jump, you know? But the idea that I'm supposed to fucking sit there and be like, you know, this guy was doing politics the right way. This guy was you know, he was a good actor for American politics. Like that was the demand from these fucking animals, and I was never going to do that. I was never going to lie. And my position on Charlie Kirk was very clear, obviously, right? I mean, I wrote about it. There was extensive coverage on my opinion on Kirk, my anger and frustration towards those who were engaging in you know, ridiculous revisionist history about his background, right? I was about to debate him. Like he got killed. People of importance get assassinated. Yeah, look, what's frustrating to me about this whole process is like there's an entire sea of Kirk profiteers, if you want to call it that, right? His wife is one of them. I think I'm far more respectful. I'm just making fun of the fact that people were, you know, people were demanding this reverence, this great respect. They made this song. And it's not my fault that the song's a banger. It's not my motherfucking fault that the goddamn song is a banger. Okay? And you know, at level 10 hype train, if we get there, we'll do a special. We'll do a special one. Clan has been shamelessly profiteering off of his death and endlessly attacking his widow for a year. Excuse me. We are clandestine operators. Excuse me. But yeah, I already don't have, to be fair, you come across as kind of sarcastic about liking it. Okay, I am being sincere about my appreciation for the song. Unfortunately, I wish I was fucking joking. I do sincerely enjoy the song. So here's the thing. Okay? Here's the thing. I don't like, yeah, I'm not even dignifying them with a response. What I will say is this: I expect Republicans to do this shit. I think if you are a liberal and you lean into the Republican pearl clutching operation around the martyrization of Charlie Kirk, you are literally, by my estimation, you're lower than the Republicans. Okay? You are the dog shit that is stuck to the bottom of my shoe. So if you're a liberal and you hate me and you're like, this is a great opportunity, I'm going to use this as a moment. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to really stick it to this guy, to show all of these other liberals out there that I'm the good one. I'm the good liberal. Let me tell you something. Okay? I don't respect you. I will never respect you. The Republicans will never respect you, especially because you have no respect for yourself. Okay? You have no respect for yourself. You are a horrifyingly reduced piece of shit that will never see the gates of heaven. Okay? If you're one of these liberals, these self-identifying liberals who comes out and agrees with the Republicans, in a moment like this, when they're doing an outrage manufacturing campaign, I don't even give a shit. I don't even care about the Republicans doing it. I expect the Republicans to do it. Of course they're going to do that. But if you fucking lean into their pearl clutching operation, you're fucking worse than they are. You're a nasty little pervert. You're a freak ass bitch. Never in a fucking million years. Too many comments in this chat. Could y'all stick to quality comments only? Please, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, this is one of those freak ass bitches I'm talking about. This David Mauricio guy. He's doing it because he wants to position himself as like the anti-Hassan liberal because he wants clout. This is the first and last time I will ever mention this little worm. Okay? All of those unfuck America losers, bro. Oh my God. This fucking dickhead shook hands with that white supremacist. Jake Lang. I thought he was fine. I thought he was like a Jubilee libtard. I thought he was, you know, fine. He does decent on those debates. Turns out he's not. He made a whole video being like, Hassan Piker's a right-wing psyop. These motherfuckers were selling "We Carry on the Flame, Unfuck America" Charlie Kirk lighters, bro. These are the motherfuckers who are complaining. Motherfuckers who made Charlie Kirk memes themselves. I mean, they don't even, you can tell these people have no honor. They have no self-respect. They have no consistency. They have no consistent positions at all. It's just pure grift. And if you get your news and information from these dildos, you're a fucking idiot too. Sorry. There is perhaps no greater indication of someone's dishonesty than a person like this leaning into the right-wing manufactured outrage pearl clutching campaign that I am addressing and making fun of, right? When they themselves have also done it. Yeah. Shannon Watts is another one of these fucking losers. I'm going to tell you right now, there are vultures out here. There are vultures out here, some of which are just straight up operating as Hasbara mercenaries. Shannon Watts is one of them. Shannon Watts, David, whatever the fuck, David LaRosa as another one. Like, those guys are, they're doing this because they recognize that their whatever remains of their career relies on getting money from big donors that care a lot about Israel, right? Neera Tanden is another one of them. But then there's also the classic, like, I'm going to take the oppositional position to whatever Hassan is saying, like Asmongold. Here's Asmongold talking about how it's really fucked up.
I think this stuff is disgusting, and I think that the people that are enabling it, and the fact that he has people on his podcast that are doing this with him and they're singing along to somebody who is promoting terrorism and everything else, the reason why they're singing about the "We Are Charlie Kirk" and everything else, the reason why they're doing this is because
guy who recently ate a 14-day ban for advocating to murder children, like shoot children with a gun, is back pearl clutching about how we choose to continue carrying the fucking flame. Yeah. Guy who wants to murder children has the moral position here, apparently.
They support killing Charlie Kirk. That's the reason why they're doing it. They're not doing it because they think it's fun.
When you find yourself on the back foot constantly, the only thing you find yourself doing is defending against change. I'm not on the back foot at all. Now, what's funny about it is these guys, pearl clutchers,
they're not doing it because they want to, make it a meme or whatever. They're doing it because they want to turn killing Charlie Kirk into a funny thing that isn't weaponized against them. That's clearly what the goal is. The song's just a meme. I agree with you, the song is just a meme. But can you understand the difference between Hassan going and doing this versus somebody else? The difference is that whenever he's doing that, he's doing it because he agrees with it. He wants to see people.
What? Even his own audience is like, it's a meme, dog. Calm the fuck down. Legalize comedy.
Like this shot. That's the reason why he uses the red.
I like it. He's just like, no, Hassan is not allowed to. And then look at Asmongold defending it in December 2025.
Who do I look like?
You look like Charlie Kirk, bro.
He does. He does. You do. What do you mean? It does look like him. Here's my outlook. I've been making jokes about George Floyd for years. Why can't people make a joke about Charlie Kirk? Fuck, like, it's one thing to be doing it the day he gets killed, right? But like, people doing it now, like, this is a while ago.
I love that this was back in December, but now even more months have passed, and now it's like, well, yeah, it's not funny.
Thing that isn't weaponized against them. That's clearly what the goal is. The song's just a meme. I agree with you, the song is just a meme. Oh man, like, of course you got, like, I make jokes about fucking 9/11. I make jokes about all kinds of bad, like, really, really bad stuff that has that happen. So if people complain, big difference, man? Not really. I mean, I make 9/11 jokes.
I love that his entire argument is, I'm not allowed to do it. Like, he just openly says it too. He's like, no, everyone else is allowed to do this joke. It's just only Hassan is not allowed to do this. Okay. Why? Because I don't like him.
All kinds of jokes like that. But the problem is that I think it's okay, in my opinion, to tell a joke. The problem is whenever some people aren't joking. That's really the issue. And so that's really tell a joke. Which one?
Yeah. And he'll say, oh, well, Hassan is not joking. Yes, I am. The fuck do you mean? X said you singing it was advocating for political violence. Again, no respect for these people. They are worm-like individuals, lower than dirt. My opinion on these people couldn't get lower. Like XQC coming out, XQC who literally campaign, XQC who literally, all right, we're done with that kid. We're done with that kid. You will eat a ban if you ever fucking link me his nonsense ever again. I'm just letting you know. Because he's very aggressively trying to cultivate a following for himself. We're not going to do that. No free clout. Okay? But yeah, XQC, Asmongold, a lot of these people, they don't have any real politics whatsoever. It's just about farming outrage, farming the algorithm. You know, they have no... Like, if you're getting your political positions from a guy like Asmongold or XQC, you're not going to make it. Okay? Like, XQC would suck off Sex Pestiny if he was the one making the same joke. I mean, he said way more heinous shit regardless, but that's it. They're opportunists. It's all drama. It's all algorithm. It's all fucking leaning into outrage manufacturing. Yeah, guy who literally campaigned with Donald Trump is out here talking about how unacceptable. This is a call for violence. Suck my dick. What am I supposed? I'm not allowed to fucking crack jokes that everyone else is cracking. Really? That's what we're doing now? What is this fucking SJW ass bullshit? Okay? What is this fucking pearl clutching? It clearly doesn't work. Part of the reason why it doesn't work is because we push back against it and we say, you're being ridiculous. We've seen, you know, we've seen what you've cheered on. We've seen what you fucking got excited for. I'm sorry. This double standard is totally ridiculous. Okay, we were just talking about woke one. You can't behave like this. Jillian Michaels thinks you're Hitler now. We're watching a psychopath in action, and I always wondered how Hitler got millions to kill millions. This certainly gives us some insight. Yeah, I'm between me and Israel's strongest defender, Jillian Michaels. I wonder who's closer to Adolf Hitler. Anyway, so yeah, that's the little brief moment of recognition that I wanted to give to this story. There are so many Republicans who are like, we have to kill him now. Like, we have to kill him right now. Someone needs to Kirk him. Someone needs to Kirk him immediately. And it's like, dude, what are you saying? I never advocated for violence against Charlie Kirk. I was literally about to debate him. Okay. What the Trump administration tried to do in the aftermath of this, of course, and I've offered analysis on this. It's not new, right? I've tweeted about this in the past as well, about the Kirkification and all this shit, right? The real reason why a lot of the Charlie Kirk memes exploded on the internet was because of the way that the Republicans tried to martyrize Charlie Kirk, and it backfired. It backfired for a couple of reasons. One, because we now live in a much more violent environment in general, where people are you know, they're just not going to treat people in death with the dignity that you would normally demand, especially because all people are seeing is violence. They're seeing violence in Gaza. They're seeing violence in their schools, right? So from there, from the perspective of like a Gen Zer growing up in this environment where there's like school shootings happening, mass shootings happening all the time, and then they're like, you know, you have to, this is different. This time it's different. And it's a dude who himself has said, you know, school shootings are unfortunately going to continue happening. That's a price I'm, you know, willing to pay for the Second Amendment, because that's what he did, right? That's what Charlie Kirk literally said. Of course, they're going to be like, all right, well, that's a little crazy. Yeah, we got ICE agents gunning down people in American neighborhoods. And then the entire Republican Party is defending this process, saying they're all fucking terrorists. And then what are we supposed to do? We can't even crack jokes, not even at the expense of Charlie Kirk necessarily, but more so the entire Republican movement that tried to force reverence. That's it. And I talked about this extensively at the time as well, when the Kirkification memes were exploding and people were like trying to figure out what happened here. They were trying to understand it. And I said, look, part of it is because all people have seen is violence. And the other part of it is because Republicans tried to crack down on left speech, political dissidents, and aggressively force reverence for a right-wing podcaster, to which people reacted this way about, because they were like, why would we? Why would we do that? What is this expectation? You can't on the one hand design a world that is this violent, and then also on the other hand, say whatever you want to say about George Floyd, say whatever you want to say about black people, brown people, all the time, call us pussies, say we're libtarded, woke, hysterical babies, only to then turn around and be like, no, this is our MLK, and you have to respect him. You have to respect him. How dare you? You need to get fired. Because they went after so many people. They went after so many goddamn people. They tried to fire people. They were analyzing my reaction to it. And I would go so far as to say my reaction was more human than many on the Republican side's reaction was, including Erica Kirk. Erica Kirk's reaction was strange. You know? So, from my perspective, last year I taught 6th grade and I had a student who wore a Charlie Kirk t-shirt the day after he was killed. Not even a month later, he was memeing with his friends and playing We Are Charlie Kirk song and laughing about it. Gen Z and Gen Alpha do not give a fuck. Yeah, the NFL was doing a moment of silence and shit. Yeah, Asmongold was running around months after he was like, well, yeah, everyone makes Charlie Kirk jokes. It's fine. Right? But prior to that, he was actually actively doing the mass phone calls to get people fired, mass harassment, mass doxing campaigns to get people fired. Some of the people that got fired, weren't even like saying Charlie Kirk deserved it or anything like that, right? Many of the people that got fired were getting fired because they were like, hey guys, here are some of the quotes that Charlie Kirk has put out there in the world. Here are some of the things that he defended. Can we have an honest assessment about his background? Can we have an honest assessment about what he represented in American politics? People got fired for citing the guy. Okay? People got fired for repeating his words. It is ridiculous. Yeah, this was my post on the Kirkification months ago. I said, this is part of the reason why the We Are Charlie Kirk and the Kirkification memes went insanely viral. You can't mandate reverence for a generation that saw their classmates get slaughtered in school shootings. Okay? Yeah. You cannot forcibly demand empathy for a person who considered empathy to be toxic. Okay? That's it. On a real note scale of 1 to 10, how hard would it be to get an autograph and a picture tonight after the Portland show? I don't know. Andrew Colvett, even back then, was in my fucking replies being like, no one mandated pro-Charlie posts. All that was asked was that they didn't cheer the assassination of an innocent, peaceful father and husband. I didn't do that. So why are you fucking complaining? I didn't do that back then. I'm not doing that right now. I'm not doing that at all. Innocent, peaceful father and husband, not a high bar. If someone couldn't meet the minimum, then employers were provided with an unobstructed view of their employees' depravity. People who are outraged on Twitter always have a past tweet memeing about it too. Yeah, I think if you have in the past engaged in the exact same thing for other people, for entire races, entire populations of folks, right? But now you're like, how dare you do this? Then you're nothing to me, okay? Your opinion doesn't matter. If you literally made Kirkification memes and jokes yourself and are now pearl clutching about this, especially as like someone who is apolitical or like a liberal, you literally should stop. You should never, everyone should constantly remind you of how big of a piece of shit you are. How big of a fucking grifter you are. No one should let you get away with it. Okay? No one should ever let you get away with it. Yeah, Charlie would have mourned Hassan. Charlie Kirk on stage mocked the killing of Palestinians in Gaza, made jokes about the destruction of Gaza, and watched his audience laugh along. Yeah. Lauren Chen, Hassan met Charlie many times. I was on a panel with them at Politicon. They were fiery on stage, but still jovial and amicable with each other once it was done. Charlie would have mourned Hassan had he been shot. Hassan, on the other hand, chooses to mock Charlie for shame. They're trying to do it again. And it's strange to me because while they're trying to do it again, the same like you have to respect Charlie Kirk, I need to make my position very clear one more time, okay? One, I never called for violence against Charlie Kirk. I was slated to debate him, okay? I met him many times, but that doesn't mean I agreed with him. That doesn't mean that I thought his worldview was anything but toxic, repulsive, odious, okay? I think the violence that he was subjected to was unacceptable, wrong. It's very clear. I've said that from the start. But the idea that like we have to sit here and rewrite his history, we have to sit here and act as though he was a figure that we have to show reverence to. Completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. Anyway, especially when for the right, their goal has been to farm it to the best of their ability. For some on the right, there are people who wanted to, take on his role in the Republican media ecosystem, many of which fought one another and are still warring with one another. For others, it was an opportunity for them to reframe their perspective, like the Nick Fuenteses of the world, who have said way more heinous shit about Charlie Kirk than I ever fucking did, right? Now those guys who spent their entire lives ankle biting Charlie are turning around and trying to present themselves as major defenders of his legacy. Nick Fuentes being one of them. It's fucking bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. And yes, Erica Kirk's behavior in the aftermath of Charlie's assassination was also so insane that most normal people who either didn't know anything about Charlie Kirk or may have even liked Charlie Kirk thought that was a weird thing to do. So why are we forgetting all of that? We're just going to rewrite all that history? I'm not going to let that happen. That's it. Anyway, do we have a playlist? Yeah, this U account will probably have a great time cooking all these people. Look at this. Rob Reiner was a loser. Naturally, his son was also a loser. He got addicted to drugs and allegedly murdered his parents. Looks like Rob should have spent more time parenting and less time spreading Russia conspiracy hoaxes about President Trump. I stand with President Trump. Every single one of these Republicans, every single one of these right-wingers are monsters, dude. Get the fuck out of here. Anyway, selective amnesia. The hypocrisy knows no bounds. Anyway, do we have a playlist? Because I know that there's a lot of news going on. I know that Trump is doing the Indy 500 or whatever in DC, which my controversial opinion is it's actually not that bad. It's kind of cool. Far right last year, if you don't sing We Are Charlie Kirk at the Chicago Bears game, we're going to get you fired from your job as a bus driver. Far right now, how dare you sing We Are Charlie Kirk? That's basically a hate crime. Amnesia is too credible of a word. It's malicious. Oh, I agree. As an indie fan, I hate it. They think you are the Senate leader. I know. I saw this.
Of course.
They're fucking insane, dude. They're so insane.
Abdul Sayed is actually the stalking horse for Hassan Piker. So the real election, when it comes down to the Senate, in every single state, whether it's South Carolina with Darlene Graham, up in Alaska with Dan Sullivan, the election is going to be between who's going to run the Senate, John Thune or Hassan Piker. The Democrats have become the party of Hassan Piker. He's a violence rhetoric-driven, Islamist apologist, Jew-hating bigot. And I think that the Democratic Party are trying to walk past Hassan Piker and pretend that he wasn't, in fact, the guy who pushed Abdul Sayed over the top and represents young Democrats in the DSA. So the DSA has taken over the Democratic Party. Poor Chuck Schumer. I felt bad for Ed Markey. Ed Markey didn't even know what AI was last night in that debate. He was so clueless in that debate.
Yeah, I'm the you can close it.
It'll warm up in here.
Okay. It's fine. Yeah, I'm the new Senate leader, chat.
Polls are so bad in Texas. So I think Democrats are scared that they're talking a good game. They don't have much money. They got terrible candidates, and they got the burden of Hassan Piker. And I can't stop talking about him because El Sayed put on this Hassan Piker suit, had him come in the night before, stuck around the day after. Now he's stuck with him for the whole election, and most of Michigan is saying, that's not us.
Yeah, they even had...
Yeah, fantasy land. Yeah, bro. I control the media. That's right. They got me. You're the new Soros. I'm the new George Soros. They moved on. They moved on from George Soros. It's me now. The whole show was about you, according to ASIN. There were already about 6 to 7 Hassan Piker mentions in the first segment, and now they're opening a new segment with another mention.
System, but the Democrats are certainly getting in their own way. I do want to ask you how you can explain to us tonight your Democratic colleagues in the United States Senate, particularly those who are Jewish, allowing people like Hassan Piker and Abdul El Sayed into the party to say what they're saying about Israel. System.
Dude, what the fuck kind of timeline are we in right now where mainstream news is going after you? Look. The entire point of this is it's a disciplining operation, okay? Do not fucking say anything about Israel, because if we do, if you say anything about Israel, if you're a prominent critic of Israel, okay, we will make your life a living hell. If you're a prominent critic of Israel, then we will literally come after your family. We will consistently yell about you. Okay, check this out. I was glad to be there for the performance. Turns out Fox News was at the San Francisco event. Yeah. The whole point is they're trying to get someone activated enough to come and kill me. Okay? That's it. It is so that it is a lesson for all to see and hear and acknowledge that there are certain forces you are not supposed to mess with in society. Okay? You're not supposed to go after corporate interests that hard. You're not supposed to go after Israel that hard. Your voices should never be heard. Because at the end of the day, I am simply a megaphone. Okay? I am just a megaphone for your anger. I am just a platform for your frustrations. They obviously can't go after all of us. So what they're trying to do is, take care of someone who is a large enough platform. That's it. Yeah. I can't wait for Hassan to get kirked. It's distasteful. Hassan knew Charlie. Had real conversations with him, and now he mocks the death of him. He's a sociopath. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Guy who also hated Charlie Kirk and is LARPing. 100%. If a right-wing extremist assassinated the most prolific youth organizer on the left and under a Democratic administration, they would outlaw conservative politics by the next morning. Yet we allow Hassan Piker and the DSA to gloat over the murder of Charlie Kirk with impunity. No one is gloating over the murder of Charlie Kirk with impunity. People are making fun of the ridiculous ways in which the Republican media machine tried to use this as an opportunity to force reverence for a right-wing podcaster. Okay? That's it. That's what this is about. That's what this is about. That's what this has always been about. The pearl clutching is next level. I know. And it's so nasty too. Like, not just the pearl clutching. The pearl clutching is one thing. It's annoying. It's a nuisance. I think most people understand what's going on though. And the people who refuse, or the people who are pearl clutching from the liberal side, are doing it because they have their own personal agenda. That's whatever. What is really frustrating in general is whenever people just like clipped stuff that I'm talking about, right? I'll go on like a long rant talking about how Zionism isn't Judaism and how tying all Jews to Israel's actions is increasing anti-Semitism in the country. And they'll be like, well, Hassan wants bad things to happen to Jews. Like, no, I don't, actually. I don't. And what's frustrating about it is that there are liberals out there who are not recognizing what's going on and leaning into the right wing, leaning into the right wing insanity. The Jews are regrettably bringing anti-Semitism upon themselves with their bad politics/behavior is a classic argument used by anti-Semites, including Hitler. I don't think the Jews are doing anything, but obviously Jewish extremism in Israel is harming the Jewish image worldwide, just like Muslim extremists harmed Muslims. Don't deny the obvious just for one pet issue, in my opinion. Yeah. Then Neera Tanden does this. It's a genuine advice meant in the spirit of goodwill to tell any leader to stay 100 miles away from Piker who is morally repugnant and repellent to the median voter. Have you ever seen, with the exception of like Donald Trump, have you ever seen a figure in American politics get attacked this aggressively by the entirety of the right, the far right, and also centrist Democrats and establishment media? And it wasn't the far right that attacked Donald Trump, obviously. They were the only people who were on his side. I have never, maybe it's tough for me. It's tough for me to you know, take an unbiased, impartial position on this because I'm in the crosshairs myself. But it blows my fucking mind. It blows my mind how ruthless these people are. Last time I saw someone get this aggressively pursued, it was Bernie Sanders in 2016 and then Bernie Sanders in 2020. It was the far right, it was the right wing, and it was the entire establishment media on the liberal side as well that just would attack him endlessly. And Bernie Sanders was running. He was running for president, which, again, still unacceptable, the way that they came after him. But yeah, this is a disciplining operation. This is a disciplining operation. What we have to do is stay strong, understand exactly why they're doing this, and not yield and not bend to their desires.
All right, let's talk about another state that you raised, another big state, Michigan, the face-off between Democrat Abdul El-Sayed and former Congressman Mike Rogers. The NRSC continues to put out social media posts claiming that Abdul El-Sayed has quote-unquote terrorist ties, and yet there is no evidence that he has terrorist ties. Senator, should the NRSC stop running those ads?
Well, we know without question that he had family members who helped resource Osama bin Laden. We know without question that he campaigns with Piker, who said at one point that America deserved 9/11.
I mean, what can I say about this dude? He literally, this is a prominent Republican politician actively claiming that I'm a fucking terrorist. Like doubling down on the lie.
Stay focused on Al-Sayed, though. Let's stay focused on Al-Sayed and what he has said and believes in. There's no evidence.
Flock
this
to get.
Calling me a terrorist on TV, bro, on Meet the Press. It comes down to AIPAC, right? Yes, of course. It comes down to not just AIPAC, but the entire media apparatus that Israel deploys, like Israel sympathizers deploy in general. That's also part of the reason why Kristen Weller doesn't turn around and go, are you calling an American citizen who is a podcaster a terrorist? Because like the normal response to that is not just to turn around and be like, you know, let's focus on Abdul El-Sayed, because he is focusing on Abdul El-Sayed. He's saying Abdul El-Sayed has allegiances with terrorists. Okay? It's nutty. Like, dude, think about it this way. Charlie Kirk was linked up with every single Republican campaign. He was in the White House all the damn time. He was in the White House while talking about how Islam is a sword to the neck of America, right? And no one turned around and said, hey, this is kind of fucked up. Liberals didn't even do that. Liberals didn't even turn around and say, this is kind of fucked up that Charlie Kirk is doing this kind of thing. While also simultaneously hanging out with as many politicians, many prominent politicians, campaigning alongside them, throwing events. He was a part of the system. If someone were to turn around and say Charlie Kirk is a terrorist, I'm fairly certain that even liberal media would say, okay, that's a bridge too far. I don't think he's a terrorist. They regarded him as a conservative activist. He was a part of January 6th. He bussed people in during January 6th, and liberals still consistently considered him a conservative activist. But on the other side, if you're an anti-Zionist, if you're a prominent anti-Zionist and a prominent Republican, the head of the NRSC says Hassan Piker is a terrorist, there's no moment of reflection, no moment of like, hey, hold on, what are you talking about? It's just Islamophobia. There's no other way to cover it. And I know the black folk in my audience understand exactly what's going on. Brown folk in my audience know exactly what's going on. Muslims in the audience know exactly what's going on. It's just, there's nothing you can do about it. These guys, this double standard is glaringly obvious. They're just not going to solve it. They're not going to solve it anytime soon, especially because currently it's unbelievably beneficial to churning out Hasbara, churning out Zionist propaganda, as the Israeli foreign minister has openly admitted that their goal now is not to get people to defend Israel necessarily, but to just really dial up the Islamophobia in the Western world, because they recognize that they have no success in getting people to defend Israel. It's not going to happen.
Birds of a feather flock together. The company you keep does matter. We all know that. That's something we learn in elementary school. Well, let's go to where he stands on the issues, though. There's a reason why even former Biden administration folks are joining with Republicans.
Yeah, they're talking about Michael LaRosa, right? They're using like Jill Biden's press secretary, who got fired, as a person. Like, there's noteworthy people on the Biden camp that are against Abdul al-Sayed. Like, this is what I mean. It's a fairly sophisticated smear operation against Abdul al-Sayed that they're deploying. And part of that revolves around getting the liberals to also play ball, touching on issues that they care about, at least liberals in positions of power. Liberals in the media are also very precious about their favorite emotional support apartheid state. So they can always use that as a way to bring people seemingly to their side, even if these people are not a representative enough force, right, amongst the masses.
Republicans and hosting fundraisers throughout Michigan to support Mike Rogers. Here's one of the reasons why. We've got a candidate in Abdul el-Sayed who wants to abolish ICE. He wants to defund the police. Here's a candidate so radical that even Democrats in Michigan are joining forces for the first time with Republicans to elect Mike Rogers.
Just to be very clear, there is no evidence that al-Sayed supports any terrorist organization.
Yeah, birds of a feather. Who was Epstein's best friend? Fact is, Republicans protect and support pedophiles. With that, they lost every ounce of credibility. Tim Scott just got through endorsing the lying, cheating, thieving, immoral Ken Paxton, so maybe he's right about birds of a feather. What Welker should have mentioned, on day one of his presidency, Trump pardoned hundreds of domestic terrorists, so fuck off. Piker has no terrorist ties, but it is true that the Trump regime is a fascist and by far the most politically motivated. Violence is on the right. So it's actually Trump and Mike Rogers, and Tim Scott for that matter, with fascist and terrorist ties. Yeah. Piker's not a terrorist either. What idiots. These people are monsters. They're monsters, and they're losing. But until we win, they're just going to keep chirping. Okay? Until we win, they are going to try to do their very best. Yeah. Matt Diasan also had another good point about this. Democrats on my timeline claiming the party should distance from Hassan Piker because he was singing a song mocking Charlie Kirk. But here's Bill Maher and a New York Times reporter joking about the death of Jason Arday, and the audience are laughing. Will Dems boycott Maher now? Of course they won't, because they agree. By the way, it's quite instructive that Islamophobia doesn't just stop. Like, that kind of racism, that kind of bigotry never stays with just Muslims, right? Because those people are also anti-black too. They're also anti-black as well. These guys are never just against Muslims, just like they're never just against transgender people, right? It's never just one kind of bigotry that they stick to. It's all of the bigotry. So for a lot of people who think, oh, well, we can find allegiances here with these guys because they also hate Muslims or they're also pro-Israel. If you think that you're not next on the chopping block, you're wrong. It never just stays with Muslims. That's why I can't comprehend it when I see people who themselves are from a minority background that also entertain Islamophobia, things like that. These people hate you too, big dog. Fuck you mean?
Yeah, and it's the reason that, and it's my last question for you, because you've been a part of many a media frenzy covering what you have to say. What do you make of the media frenzy around Hassan Piker right now and his role on a couple of campaign trails for lots of progressive challengers?
To be honest with you, I find it kind of weird. Like, he's a streamer. This guy is not an elected official, and there's a lot of elected officials out there that are saying incredibly horrible thing. Look at this Andy Biggs conversation, right? Like, you have two candidates, one who's a huge Islamophobe and one who is clearly an anti-Semite, and we can't seem as a party to acknowledge that both of those things are really, really bad, right? And I think that it's fascinating that people are so obsessed with a streamer that the median voter knows nothing about. You know, that's
No, I'm watching a video.
Is that that's fake Will.
Oh yeah,
That's fake Will.
yeah, Coach Chiarella.
That's cooler. Well, he knows politics and stuff.
Yeah, dude. Okay, guys, how fucking millennial gray is this goddamn house? down to the fucking artwork on the walls. I cannot believe it. Chat. It literally looks like.
Did you tell him about my garage?
No, I didn't. His garage is filled to the brim with Christmas shit.
Yeah.
It's Christmas decorations everywhere in the garage, but like the house itself, guys.
It's very millennial.
It is the house itself literally looks like if you were to. I'm gonna Google millennial gray on Google Images, and some of the photos might actually be Austin's home.
Wait, that actually looks like.
It is exactly.
Wait, that's literally that's my couch.
I'm not joking when I say this. It's 1-to-1. Like, it's 1-to-1. It is so strange. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know why.
Are you surprised?
I mean, a little bit, yeah. Because you have to put a little bit of character in your house no matter what. It's just like shocking to me that it is so perfectly millennial.
So
gray.
I made a mistake. When I got this house, I chose every little detail in it. When I got this house, I chose every little detail in it, which is a mistake. Next time, I'm going to have somebody else do it for me, and then I'll choose from options that they come up with because I'm not an expert.
Yeah, you
went
basic bitch mode.
I like to support the interior designer class.
Okay, nice.
Put this up to give him
Yeah,
you didn't give Hassan a robe like this.
No. This is my robe.
Uh-huh.
We're starting to transition into the fall, so it's starting to come back into season.
Do you wear that robe all the time,
Yes,
or are you
like,
just doing it?
I wear these slippers too.
Nice.
Always in it. All right. Anyway, we'll get out of here.
It's just really funny because, like,
Is it still warm in here? Is it good?
no, it's good. It's good. If you close the door, it's great. No, I'm good. Thank you. I cannot believe it. Is Gen X gray, not millennial? Lamau, we're defending millennials. No, this is it. Chat. This, I think, is a photo of Austin's kitchen. Like, I'm not even joking. I had not been here, right? And I clocked it from hundreds of miles away. It is. But Austin, you are gay. Is your house the most straight thing about you? It's not even. Guys, it's not gay. It's not straight. It's nothing. I don't know how else to describe it. It straight up. Like, I want to show you something, okay? Like I want to show you the artwork inside of a millennial gray home, okay? Oh my God, it's exactly like this. Oh, this. He has stuff like this on the walls. I'm not even kidding. All of his art is black and white. The entire home. All of the art is black and white. There's like lettering art as well. Yes. Yes. It's shit like this. I swear to God. I swear to God. It's default. It's like the millennial gray default build out. And it's awesome. I don't know how he did it. I don't know why he's so consistent. I don't know how he was capable of this level of consistency. It's also funny because one of his rooms he calls the Frank Sinatra room. And I went into the room. I was like, why the fuck is this the Frank Sinatra room? Which is, again, hilarious that one of his bedrooms is called the Frank Sinatra room in and of itself. And it's because he has a Life magazine that's in one of these like magazine pouches with Frank Sinatra in the cover. That's it. That's the only reason why that's called the Frank Sinatra room. Austin is one of a kind. He really is. He really is. He really is. Incredible stuff.
Not to diss Hassan, I think he would probably agree with me generally that like they don't know who he is. And I think it speaks to the fact that a lot of moderates in our party don't have an actual vision that they are fighting for other than the center, because they're constantly repositioning themselves on the political spectrum to say, you know, I'm going to be in the middle, but the middle is always changing. And instead, what people are looking for is somebody that actually offers a new vision.
I'm an interior designer for offices, and 90% of my job is matching different grays with each other, and I want to kill myself. Yeah, you and QT clocking his house.
Like being
millennial gray.
Wait, hold on. Wait.
Come on.
Wait, yo. What?
We clocked it so hard.
Why is it called millennial gray?
Because no one likes it anymore.
Yeah, and it's also very basic.
No one likes it anymore?
No, I don't know how to tell you that.
Do
but
you
I
not
don't.
like it?
Like,
It's giving
what?
starter home.
No, it's not giving
This is why interventions don't work.
My
Sometimes
gray.
they just say no.
I love my gray, and I have white cabinets.
Yes, do they have black handles?
Yes.
Yeah. What's crazy is I had never been inside of this home. Okay? I had never been inside this home, and yet I knew. I clocked it. And it down to all of the upholstery, okay? Down to the upholstery, down to the wire. It's incredible.
How the f do you
Matt?
know? Yes.
You got one of those dumb modern tubs that look like it's like this.
Oh yeah.
A freestanding one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How do you know this? When you look at my house,
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it is. All right.
Illinois. But in Michigan.
So Donald Trump did a rally a day ago, or I guess 2 days ago at this point. Yeah, August 21st, 8/21, a day that will live in infamy. And in the rally, he called me out. He called Abdul al-Sayed out. He said Abdul al-Sayed's mom gave money to Osama bin Laden or some shit. Just like they are doing everything they possibly can to claim that Abdul al-Sayed is you know, a terrorist. Yeah, he called me out on 8/21. He really did. A day that will live in infamy. A day that will live in infamy on this broadcast, okay? No matter what, we can't get away from the 8/21 curse. It's bizarre seeing the same scapegoating that content creators deploy for years become a genuine strategy for the midterms. Just watch Dana Bass ask Scott Jennings if an Indy car is what Trump should be focusing when voters' main concern is affordability. And that man's answer was he saw a video on social media of Hassan Piker celebrating the death of that podcaster. I mean, isn't this one of the accounts that fucking hates me, though? I feel like even they're coming to my side a little bit. Yeah. The Butt Hassan has allowed slop tubers to unironically get away with like pedophilia allegations, right? The Butt Hassan derangement syndrome has been such a powerful force on YouTube that has anchored a lot of this resentment, that has been a deflection method, quite successful deflection method at times. And it's kind of wild that we're now seeing it with, prominent American politicians, prominent commentators in mainstream media. They'll be like, hey, this is a murder trial. You're gonna go to prison for life. You murdered your wife and your children, and you'll have the defendant get up there and be like, well, Your Honor, but Hassan. That's where we're at. That's literally where we're at. I did not realize that this is where we were gonna get to, but we are there. We're there. All right, here's Donald Trump doing the Abdul al-Sayed is a terrorist shtick.
Michigan, the Democrat nominee for Senate, Abdul al-Sayed, Abdul, admitted openly that he wants to pack the Supreme Court with 23 far-left justices to shred the Constitution of the United States. His sister, very close relationship, celebrated the terrorist slaughter of babies on October 7th. His mother worked for an organization that gave hundreds of thousands of dollars to a gentleman named Osama bin Laden. Have you heard of him? Knocked down the World Trade Center. She gave him a lot of money, and he recently campaigned with a communist fanatic who says that America deserved 9/11. We deserved it, right? We deserved.
In 2019, on that fateful afternoon when I was reacting to Dan Crenshaw saying all that dumb shit on the Joe Rogan Experience, I never thought that 7 years later, the president of the United States of America would refer to it exactly 7 years after the fact. 7 years to the day. Now, of course, what's frustrating about this is Donald Trump has called in on the morning of 9/11 with joy, with glee in his voice, to a local news station to talk about how Trump Tower was now the tallest tower on Wall Street, now that the Twin Towers have been destroyed. So, but I guess it doesn't really matter. They get to say whatever the fuck they want. They're Republicans, right? Republicans get to own patriotism. They get to own 9/11. No one else is allowed to talk about it.
Deserved all that death, destruction. In Texas, the Democrat nominee for Senate said he hates Christianity and that the 10 Commandments are a form of fascism. The 10 Commandments are fascism.
By the way, if we were treating Trump, if we were treating Trump in the way that like the media treats me, this is how it would look.
America deserved 9/11. We deserved it, right? We deserved all that death, destruction.
Wow, I can't believe that the president said that. Can you believe that the president said that? How fucked up. Right? Like, this is literally what the Republicans are doing. This is what the Republican midterm strategy is, okay? Unironically, and at least he's the president, so doing it to him makes a little bit more sense. They're doing this to me, a fucking Twitch streamer. Yeah, this is when he called in.
You have one of the landmark buildings down in the financial district, 40 Wall Street. Did you have any damage, or did you know what's happened down there?
Well, it was an amazing phone call I made. 40 Wall Street actually was the second tallest building in downtown Manhattan, and it was actually, before the World Trade Center, was the tallest. And then when they built the World Trade Center, it became known as the second tallest, and now it's the tallest.
Oh my God! Just clipping sound bites. Just clipping sound bites out of context and then getting mad at them. By the way, he said that on 9/11, the morning of 9/11. Man, I love you, but you cannot go around campaigning with politicians and still call yourself a Twitch streamer. I am just a Twitch streamer. I am. Okay? But regardless, that's not a cop-out. Like, my point is, I'm not saying, oh, I'm just a Twitch streamer as like as some kind of cop-out. It is ridiculous. Even if I was a fucking politician and saying this shit, okay? Even if I was a politician, obviously the expectation is very different from a politician, right? But like, even then, you should look at what the Republicans are saying and doing, and then figure out whether or not what I'm saying and doing is anywhere near as crazy as what they're saying and doing is. Do you understand? Because it's not. That's the other side of the story that's also frustrating. Because people are not even comparing what my worldview is or what my statements are and applying the same fucking standard to the goddamn president of the United States of America. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's so frustrating. This double standard makes me more mad than anything else. Like, I'm not saying this because I'm at the heart of this. You know, obviously that changes it a little bit for me. But like, this is something that I've been pissed off about my whole damn life, dude. It's not new. I hated it when they were doing this shit. I hated it when they were doing this shit to Democrats as well. Democrats that I don't even like that much. I can't stand it. I can't stand this double standard. They just constantly cry bully. And the Democrats always let them get away with it. We have to stop with this. Stop backing down.
He's a disaster, that guy. That guy is a disaster. And just last week, the entire Democrat National Committee voted to abolish ICE, meaning the official Democrat Party platform now is, on top of everything else, they want to do that. I mean, they want to end all enforcement. They want to end law and order in our country. They want to make it worse than it was. When I took over, our border was being overrun by millions and millions of people. Ultimate 25 million people throughout the 4-year period came into our country. They want to make it easier. Was that a good thing? Was that good or bad? I think she said Trump Nation. I like that. I like that. I like that. Leave her alone. Don't do it. She said Trump Nation. That's okay. Trump Nation's okay. I wasn't sure. You never know what they're saying nowadays, do you, Front Row Joes? But communism is the single greatest threat to our country in history, including World War I, World War II, Pearl Harbor, 9/11. And that's why we're going to crush the radical Democrats at the ballot box this November. And we're going to defeat communism in America once and for all. We're going to defeat it. It's never worked. It's dirty, it's filthy, it's unhappy. Did you ever see a happy communist? You ever see a communist laugh? I never saw it. I've known communists, they don't laugh. They're very unhappy people. We want to be happy. With your vote for Darlene on Tuesday, we're going to send a message straight to the Democrat Party headquarters in Washington. We're going to tell them that we will never abolish ICE. We will never surrender our Constitution. And we will never allow our country to even think about being a communist or even a socialist country. We're not going to let it happen. Why? Well, I don't know. I don't know.
This guy has a kill your local pedophile shirt on. Normally, guys that wear that shit are like always right wing. Could be a former Trump fan turned Trump hater. It's pretty awesome. You are a devolving old man. Like, look who's talking. You're a devolving old man. Look who's talking. No, this is guys who normally wear like kill your local pedophile style shirts. Unironically are unironically, big fans of Trump. I went and saw American Doctor yesterday because of your stream. Thank you for being the amazing person that you are. The hogs are losing the rally energy. They can't eat half of their treats, and it's showing at the spots where they used to hog out the most. I agree. The only one inciting violence against American Jews is Piker and his rhetoric. For the future of our party, Democrats have to call out this hate and condemn these dangerous views. Anyone campaigning with them is a part of the problem. Whatever, Gottheimer. Buttheimer. I just don't... Look, I've said it already. I'm down to... Unc, these are for you. Oh, yeah, those... Whoa. It's not bad. They have not produced one single clip of you saying anything anti-Semitic ever. Law, I know. But for a lot of these dudes, it's just criticizing Israel is the most anti-Semitic you can ever be. So that's why it doesn't matter. They just fucking constantly point to that. They go, oh, well, that's... Look at all the shit that he says about Israel. Obviously, that's it. That's all it is. That's all they got.
That's all right. That person's going home to mom, going to get scolded because mom is voting for us. You know? Mom is voting.
America deserved 9/11, dude.
The Hassan Piker Discourse Industrial Complex? Wait, what the fuck is this?
I'm saying it.
The question here is, come November, will those Haley Stevens voters really vote for the guy who's the socialist dreamboat of diversity?
We got a
silly gym
nice
rat
effort
flex
post.
and his tight-fitting black tee.
These races ultimately are local, and all politics are local. My understanding is that Francesca Hong has made clear her present stances to her electorate.
Yeah, she's moved away from a lot of that.
Right, she's moved away from it. And I have a local city councilman that has this saying, woke one was crazy.
Woke one was crazy.
Today, we're going to be having a conversation. I want to go ahead and examine this weird paradox that Black voters find themselves in. On one hand, they are the most supportive of DSA policies, but on the other hand, it seems as though that Black voters are the least supportive of DSA candidates. One of the main reasons why this contradiction stood out to me is because within America, most of our well-known socialists are Black. But it seems as though that the DSA, an organization that is advocating for democratic socialism, seems to be disconnecting with the group of people that have already been historically predisposed to socialism. So in this video, I want to go ahead and examine why exactly there seems to be a drift between the Black voter base. A group of individuals who have already been predisposed to the Rainbow Coalition, to Fred Hampton, Angela Davis, the Black Panther Party, in hopes of better understanding the gap between the insurgent left and the base of the Democratic Party. In this video, we'll go ahead and examine the after effects of El Sayed winning his race against Stevens. We'll also go ahead and discuss the whole Hassan Piker Discourse Industrial Complex and why Joe Scarborough has no freaking reason yelling that loud in the morning. After that, we'll also go ahead and have a conversation about Miss AOC and why the language of Woke 1.0 not only undermines the hard work of BLM activists, but weirdly enough, may also undermine some of the movements that we're currently seeing in 2026.
This is about the Democrats once again fumbling the football on the 2-yard line when they have a chance to make great gains, but being so woke, I don't know if you want to call it woke 1, woke 2, or woke 3, but being too woke to call out the obvious.
And because this is a little director's cut, similar to my Lotto video, I will definitely try to bring up comments from the previous video as a way to provide some of my insight into what y'all left. Hello and welcome to the Demi Show. Today we're going to be having a conversation. This is going to be a part 2, a director's cut of some sort in regards to our initial conversation that we had about Dr. Abdul El Sayed, as well as the Michigan Senate race, and this unfortunate idea that Black voters are monolithic. That video received upwards of almost 1,000 comments. So I wanted to go ahead and do a part 2 to further examine some of the things that were discussed in the first video, and to also add to some of my commentary that I wasn't initially able to put in the first video. Before we officially start everything, I want to go ahead and touch on, as a lot of people have mentioned, Dr. Abdul El Sayed is not DSA. According to Dr. Abdul El Sayed, he is a scientist and a capitalist that understands the pitfalls of capitalism. I say that to say that I'm very much aware of the fact that Dr. Abdul El-Sayed is not a DSA candidate, but the DSA is not exempt from the critiques that I had in that video. Like, even though I am supportive of the insurgent left, the DSA has gotten multiple critiques of being a very white organization and having issues when it comes to Black voters. So yes, Dr. Abdul El-Sayed may not be DSA, but my critiques in the video definitely apply to the DSA. A lot of my analysis in that video was created prior to Dr. Abdul El-Sayed eking out a win against Miss Haley Stevens. One of the things that I mentioned in the previous video is that I thought the race was going to be extremely close. And the main reason why I believe that the race was going to be close was because of what we were discussing in the original video. Even though Dr. Abdul El-Sayed was able to win his primary against Haley Stevens, according to reports and according to some of the data that we've seen sprinkling out of the Michigan Senate primary race, Dr. Abdul El-Sayed lost the Black vote to Haley Stevens. A lot of the polls that we saw show that Stevens had upwards of a 33-point advantage when it came to Black voters specifically. And even though Dr. Abdul El-Sayed did make inroads with the Black community, specifically young Black voters, he did still end up losing a majority of Black voters to Haley Stevens. I wanted to go ahead and highlight this specific comment because I didn't touch on this in the original video, but I've been seeing stories about this dynamic specifically within Detroit. This commenter points out, I'm a Black man from West Michigan and I voted for Abdul. Most Black voters in West Michigan did as well, but it's a different dynamic in Wayne County. There's a significant divide between some Arab and Black communities there, and both historical and current racial tensions still exist. The area isn't as unified or diverse in practice as it may seem from the outside. If Abdul wants to beat Mike Rogers in November, he needs to speak directly to Black Americans. Dr. Sayed is most likely going to have to rely on two establishment, quote unquote, heavyweights. Now, if you remember the Michigan Senate primary race, Barack Obama basically acted as an omnipresent figure throughout the race. Even though he didn't endorse anybody, AIPAC and by extension UDP poured a lot of money into this idea of Barack Obama endorsing Haley Stevens. And by Barack Obama lending his support and his star power to Dr. Abdul El-Sayed, he most likely is going to be able to firm up some of that support alongside Kamala Harris mobilizing her supporters to support Dr. Abdul El-Sayed should help alleviate some of that tension. But does it fully address the issue that we initially talked about in the previous video? No. Well, this is the part of the video where we have to talk about the Kamala Harris endorsement. Like, if you personally ask me, why do I believe that Kamala Harris is advocating on behalf of Dr. Abdul El-Sayed? I think, one, Harris wants to defeat the Trump administration. Like, out of the gate, she doesn't like the Trump administration.
It confused me because Cuomo won the Black vote too. Yes, because a lot of older Black voters are very cautious voters. They're defensive voters. Okay. And they're also very invested in the establishment side of the Democratic Party's politics because there are a lot of trusted figures with seniority within the Democratic Party that they lean into, you know, Black figures within the Democratic Party who will come to the neighborhoods, who will go to the communities, who are from these communities, and will tell everybody, you have to vote for this person. This is the best person. This person understands us. That's it. It's not that, it is not because older Black voters are conservative in their policies. That's the furthest from reality. Okay? Black voters consistently are the most progressive voting bloc in the country. As a demographic, there are all sorts of empirical evidence to show over and over again that Black voters, by and large, are far more sympathetic to socialism as an ideology than white voters are, than even Hispanic voters are. Okay? But when it comes down to it, and we're playing the game of percentages, right? If we're looking at if we're looking at who Black voters are voting for, it's usually by and large older voters that participate in much higher percentages, and a lot of older voters are a part of the Democratic Party's bulwark. It's turnout machine, and they will go and vote for who trusted individuals in their communities tell them to vote for. And the machine for the Democratic Party only boosts turnout in one direction, which is the establishment.
Two, as everybody has guessed, Harris is most likely gearing up for a 2028 presidential run. And she definitely needs...
Is it fair to call them small c conservative? No, because they're not. They're not conservative in their policy demands. That's why I say they're defensive voters, they're cautious voters, but they're not conservative. Even the most socially conservative black man or woman, older, like the older voting bloc is still far more progressive in their policy demands and in their appetite for a progressive policy than the same demographic that is white, the same socio-political standing, but white. Okay? That is the reality of being a black person in the United States of America, a country that has baked in white supremacy and anti-blackness, specifically anti-black white supremacy, into its fundamentals, into its foundation.
To have an answer on the question of Palestine, but she doesn't. I understand people that are fully apprehensive to the idea of Kamala Harris. Harris had the opportunity to fully separate herself from the Biden administration on the issue of Gaza.
Which you have done.
So why do they hesitate to support us in the DSA? Is it just the word socialism? No, dude, no. Black voters have less of a negative opinion of socialism than white voters do. Okay? No. I'm telling you what it is. I don't know why people don't listen. Most Americans do not vote on policy. Okay? Most people just vote on vibes in this country. And for cautious voters, older black voters, that their likelihood of voting for someone revolves around who trusted individuals in the community are telling them to vote for. You know, church leaders, just a part of the Democratic Party's turnout machine.
Something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years.
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact. You ask me what's the difference between Joe Biden and me, I'm going to have a Republican in my cabinet because I don't feel burdened by letting pride get in the way of.
Like in the retelling of 2024, some people have overlooked how a lot of activists, the uncommitted movement, and young voters were initially supportive of Harris because they saw her as a potential break from Joe Biden's policy on Gaza.
Roman, I am a Georgia state representative. I'm an elected Democrat. I come from the swing state of Georgia. We are not here to create any divisions. As my colleagues have said over and over and over again, the only reason we are here is to ensure that Donald Trump will never make it to the White House and save the lives of the people that we love. It's about the fact that today I watched my party say our tent can fit anti-choice Republicans, but it can't fit an elected official like me. I do not understand. I do not understand why being a Palestinian has become disqualifying in this country.
But as Harris herself has admitted, she sadly listened to her consultants and continued to push forward the same tragic policies. I'm somebody that was supportive of Harris in 2024, but I find that I am not apprehensive or judgmental or angry at those that chose to sit out in 2024. Because even though Kamala Harris was the better option in comparison to Donald Trump, people were rightfully grieving the loss of their loved ones and their family members. Young activists had their phones flooded with images.
For white chatters who don't listen, it's called machine politics. When black socialist leaders got killed, no other group of socialists stepped up to fill the gap, so the Dem establishment, as was planned, stepped in to fill that gap and made the strongest voter base for the Dems. So even though black voters don't particularly like Democrats, survival voting and knowing local figures is what carries it. Yes. There's also a lot of, like, a big part of machine politics is also distribution of resources. Okay? Like, the reason why Jim Clyburn is such a towering force in South Carolina is not because he's black. It's because he gets money from the Democratic Party and he distributes those resources that he gets from the Democratic Party to local church leaders, to community organizers, hand-selected community organizers. So, of course, he is a trusted figure for his constituents. He has constituent services. Okay? And he's been doing this for multiple decades at this point. That's how you design a political machine. That's how you establish trust. So when, HBCUs, this is how you create a funding vehicle for black leadership that comes after you as well. The reason why Angie Nixon won with demographics that DSA normally doesn't actually win with is because, one, she is a trusted local politician. She's a trusted state politician as a black woman, but also because she had the backing and endorsement of every local black politician, every state level and local level black politician in Florida. Okay? That's it. She has the connection to the community, and she had the endorsement of every single pivotal black politician from localities up to the state. That's it.
Of carnage from Gaza. So even though I myself was participating in relational organizing to get some of those people on board, it would be foolish of any of us to overlook their grief and their anger towards Harris. I lay this all out to say that Harris herself definitely benefits from aligning herself with progressives and leftists. It helps soften her image for 2028 when she obviously runs, in the words of Gavin Newsom, as a lifelong insurgent. That means that Harris needs to go ahead and start positioning herself as somebody that is antithetical to the Democratic establishment. I've seen some people argue that this is more beneficial to Harris, and I've seen other people argue that this is more beneficial to Syed. In reality, this is mutually beneficial. Harris wants to win, and it feels as though that she's willing to move with whatever the political wins are in hopes of winning in 2028. If you personally ask me, Harris needs to do way more than just a few appearances here and there and a few answers here and there to actually build back momentum for a 2028 run. And I honestly think there is a way for Harris to actually be able to mend her relationship with the pro-Palestinian left, but that would mean that Harris would have to grow a very strong backbone. And I don't think that's something that she's willing to do at this moment.
America deserved 9/11, dude. F it. I'm saying it.
After Dr. Abdul El-Sayed won his primary race, Dr. Abdul El-Sayed has sadly been inundated with one specific question. Do you disavow Hassan Piker? This question now has taken the place of the does Israel have the right to exist question that initially plagued his primary campaign.
When asked about Hassan Piker's comments on 9/11, Senator Bernie Sanders called it a dumb statement. Do you agree? Do you disavow those comments that America deserved 9/11?
Of course it was a dumb statement. And of course, I think Hassan himself would say that was a dumb statement. He disavowed it. So yes, America didn't deserve 9/11. But, you know, to sit here and play gotcha politics with a dumb thing somebody said out of context that they disavowed themselves to say, oh, well, what does that mean about what you think? I want to be held accountable for what I say and what I do.
A lot of this stems from the fact that Hassan Piker has been a vocal critic of the country of Israel and its genocidal actions in Palestine. Because of this, Hassan has become basically persona non grata within Democratic establishment circles. Like Dr. Abdul El-Sayed is getting asked these questions. Right? These questions about Hassan Piker, not only because the news media is actually interested in his substantive critique or support of Hassan, it's because he's brown. Similar to what we've seen with black candidates, Syed now has to take on the mantle for his community and has to speak on behalf of every single issue and every single thing another brown person does. The whole conversation around Hassan Piker and the 9/11 comment has been, like, can I ask the audience something? Are you guys genuinely that perturbed by the statements that Hassan Piker makes? You may not like what Hassan said, but the argument that Hassan Piker is putting forth, the idea of blowback, a boomerang effect to American imperialism. This is considered in certain circles as the imperialist boomerang. This is not new. Individuals within the American military themselves have spoken up about this. Like a lot of the conversations that people are having on social media, especially about modern day politics, feel more so driven from the lens of fandom and less about an actual tangible, substantive political conversation. No, I don't say this to dismiss the actual tangible policy differences between the left and the liberals. Like, I think those conversations are substantive. What I'm more so criticizing and critiquing are the conversations that feel like what I consider endless circle jerks. Like, I initially wanted to call this like the human centipede, but that would have been a crazy graphic. So we have to go with circle jerk. There are sometimes conversations that are had that feel as though they are so out of touch with the actual lived lives of people. And one of the main drivers of that is the Hassan Piker discourse industrial complex, or better known as, in certain circles, as Hassan derangement syndrome. Now, I don't like the derangement syndrome part of it because I do think there are actual critiques that people have about Piker. Like, I know people who are further left than me that have genuine critiques about Hassan participating in electoralism and the faultiness of electoralism as an ideology. I have people who don't believe that Hassan Piker has been strong enough on the Palestinian cause, even though Hassan is one of the biggest advocates for that. You know, and people can have their own opinions in regards to that. But I don't even think that's what's happening with the mainstream media. You're not even getting that on the mainstream media. What you're getting is Hassan Piker brown, Hassan Piker bad. Hassan Piker Muslim, Hassan Piker bad. You could turn on Fox News at any time of the day and there's going to be a picture of Hassan Piker up there. There is this weird dynamic where the American news media seems to believe that Hassan Piker is like this albatross around the necks of politicians, when in reality, not to demean the work of Hassan, but most people don't know who Hassan Piker is. And that has less so to even do with Hassan and more so to do with the fact that most Americans do not consume political content. That's why the news media is literally collapsing as an industry.
There's no great conspiracy here.
That in reference to some people seeing that you said Israel shouldn't be completely dismantled as a state and it will nominally exist. Yeah, I know. People are fucking crazy. It's fine, whatever. And then they'll turn around and say, "Oh, he can't take any of these reasonable criticism, and that's why he's saying people are fucking crazy and all this shit." But it's like, what do you want me to say, man? People are living in fucking la la land, you know? People are living in goddamn la la land. What am I to do? Like the reason why I am receiving this much anger, this much enmity, this many attacks is because clearly these people in positions of power have identified this movement as a real threat to Israel's ambitions, the Greater Israel Project, a real threat to continued support from the United States of America to Israel. No shade, but you're an easy target and effective. I'm not. It's not that I'm an easy target. It's the opposite. It's because I'm a hard target. If I was an anchor on MSNBC, I wouldn't be able to say the things that I'm saying. If I was running for office, I wouldn't be able to say some of the things that I'm saying or use language that I do and push the needle. The reason why they're going this fucking hard is because under different circumstances, if I was an easy target, if I was malleable, I would have been fired 1,000,000 times over. That's the problem. My future father-in-law called my girlfriend and said to unfollow you because 50% of employers will see that and reject her, and that you were singing an awful song on stage that is clearly a banger. Yeah, it's whatever. You can't entertain legitimate criticism when the premise of framing is disingenuous. The whole conversation gets nullified by it. Yes. You should probably be aware of how easy it is to rile you up. Thanks, chatter.
The reason why more people are talking about the DSA right now is because you have the mayor of the most important city in America, who, first of all, is identified as DSA. But you also have people in New York City that have been saying some whacked out things. I think most mainstream voters would say they're whacked out things when this is about the Democrats, once again, fumbling the football.
I think that when people say you're an easy target is because you say more stuff. You are able to say more stuff, though. It makes you clippable. Yes. But if I was a quote unquote easy target, then they wouldn't have to twist themselves into a fucking pretzel to clip shit that I'm saying directly out of context and then generate controversy around it. You understand? Because like this combo, this is the last iteration. DSA Watch and all these other like Hasbara operatives took a long, like I think it was like a 15-minute segment where I'm discussing how Zionism is not Judaism and like Jewish institutions tying themselves to Israel is unironically leaning into the growth of anti-Semitism in this country. Something I've said 1,000,000 times over, something others have said 1,000,000 times over. They clipped it to make it seem like I'm saying, you know, like that I don't even know what they're arguing. I guess the argument is that Hassan Piker says Jews who support Israel are inviting violence.
Ball on the 2-yard line when they have a chance to make great gains, but being so woke, I don't know if you want to call it woke 1, woke 2, or woke 3, but being too woke to call out the obvious.
I don't watch Morning Joe because what the fuck do I look like watching Morning Joe?
Yeah, like this is it. Abdul Sayed surrogate Hassan Piker threatens American Jews. You better speak out in favor of Hamas and against Israel or bad things are going to happen to you. You know? Like this is there's nothing anyone can do in these circumstances. You understand that, right? Like, I'm clear in my communication. I'm clear in my comms. The clips that they're clipping don't even imply what they're claiming it implies, right? But it doesn't even fucking matter. It doesn't even matter. That's all over Facebook, by the way. Just saw it. Yes, because, guys, at some point you have to understand it, okay? These are very powerful forces, okay? Israel didn't get tens of billions of dollars, $300 billion over the course of 80 years by just simply sitting around. They've designed a very sophisticated influence peddling operation in the United States of America. And now they're deploying it in the direction of one guy that you happen to fucking watch, a prominent critic of Israel. Okay? I've never underestimated the Hasbara machine. Yeah. Watch, Hassan Piker warns American Jews of consequences for supporting Israel. It's fucking bullshit. It's bullshit, but it doesn't matter. There are a shit ton of people who think I'm a dog abuser. If you can get motherfuckers to believe that I'm a dog abuser, you can get them to believe that I'm a rapacious Jew hater. It's easier than that, in my opinion. Okay? That's it. Obviously, the antidote to this is to just say the truth, okay? To say the truth no matter what the cost is. And I'm going to continue doing that.
But I've been searching the web to try to find another clip of Joe Scarborough being this upset, especially in regards to the crimes of Trump. And I have had some issues finding clips similar to this. And I have not seen Joe Scarborough lose his shit at any point similar to this. And that's my problem. There are way too many things happening currently in the world for us to be hyperfixated on Hassan Piker. Even if you have critiques of Hassan, is that really the main priority right now? Literally, people in America cannot eat lettuce. Everybody calls Americans big backs, and people can't eat salads. In my personal opinion, the reason why we're having conversations about Hassan Piker 24/7 instead of covering anything else is because there's a specific subsect of people within the American media that want to run cover on behalf of Israel. And they believe that by kneecapping one of the most prominent advocates for Palestine and also an advocate on behalf of the insurgent left, they are doing everything within their power to try to diminish any type of impact Hassan has. One of the things that
100%. I'm so glad some people are seeing it. That's it. I've been saying this nonstop. That's exactly what it is. Okay? That's exactly what this is. And it blows my mind that more people don't recognize this, especially figures in the media that are like adjacent or sympathetic to this plight, sympathetic to these causes. Like when I see this shit, maybe it's because I've been a prominent left media figure in the independent circles for the past decade almost. And therefore I have been, in the words of our friend of the show, a sin eater of sorts, right? I'm used to it, but like they're doing it to other people. They're doing it to like random people that worked for the fucking Brad Lander campaign now. Like New York Post is like, oh, look at this rich DSA person. They're doing it to Gustavo, right? Anyone and everyone that is now considered like a prominent left figure will immediately get hit with the same attacks. Oh, this person is a rich socialist, is hypocritical. Oh, this person did this. This person said that. It's bullshit. They're doing it to Mark Ruffalo. You don't even need to be a socialist. You just need to be a critic of Israel, and that's it. If you're a critic of Israel, and on top of that, you're a socialist, oh, you're fucked.
It's always kind of like been a little confusing, in my opinion, about this whole Hassan Piker discourse is the fact that Hassan Piker is exactly what the Democratic establishment said they wanted in 2024. That they wanted a young man who was brash and abrasive, that was counterculture enough, but could also speak to the issues and also be able to organize young voters. And somebody who could also speak to the masculinity crisis as well as the desirability politics that we currently see with young men and young boys. Like, what exactly makes up a Big Tent? Does the Big Tent actually encompass all ideas? Or does a Big Tent primarily focus on moving right? Third Way, an organization that is obviously two Republicans in a trench coat with a mustache on, has officially launched a campaign to push back against the DSA and most likely individuals like Hasan Piker. And I just don't think that is Big Tent coalition party politics. I find myself frustrated with the Hasan Piker conversation, not because I don't think people have the right to criticize Hasan, but I just feel like there are so many more important things to talk about at this moment. Like, we're in a fucking war, for God's sake. And individuals seem more so fixated on whatever Hasan Piker is wearing. Now, in a different timeline, this could be an important story. But in this timeline where people are literally being kidnapped and put in ICE detention centers, I feel like nobody should give a fuck about this. And not to play into this idea that all Americans are stupid, but the average American does not know anything about mob. But according to some within the liberal elite establishment, they do. And therefore, we need to write 300 plus articles on Hasan Piker and whatever Hasan Piker is doing. Not to say that Hasan can't be weaponized against certain individuals, because God knows y'all have tried, but more so the fact that the average voter who is struggling with their day-to-day most likely does not care. You can have your critiques of Hasan all you want, but do we really need 300 articles within a week about Hasan Piker? What exactly are you people saying in these new 300 articles that you didn't already cover in the previous 300 articles? Recently, Scott Jennings, yes, that's Scott Jennings, the same piece of shit that is always on the Abby Phillips show, came out with allegations that Hasan Piker was advocating on behalf of lynchings.
Piker. Now, he's Abdul El Sayed's best friend, and he campaigns for him all the time. And African Americans out there, within the sound of my voice, need to listen up, and you must listen carefully. This is who socialists like Abdul El Sayed choose to keep for company. Just listen to this. Hasan Piker in Cut 8.
Now, if you watch the video for more than a couple seconds, you're probably aware of the fact that Hasan was not doing this. Not to be conspiratorial, but as I mentioned, the Republican Party is chronically online, and they're most likely aware of conversations that have been happening in Black enclaves around Hasan Piker and allegations of anti-Blackness. And that's why somebody like Scott Jennings, who doesn't give a fuck about Black people, is posting about this, knowing damn well that if you watch the clip, you most likely can tell that this has been deceptively edited.
I don't give a what Black people care about. Oh, Black people care about this, Black people care about that. Like, shut the up. That's not how politics works. Oh, well, Hasan, how dare you? Like it or not, Black people care about this issue. It's like, it's such a stupid stance. Any other Black folk want to engage in radical activist language in this chat? Suck my Yes, dude. It's because I'm racist. That's why. It's because I'm racist, dude. Go back to a better time when lynchings were happening. This is what I like as a Black man. Are you always doing too much with Black people? Leave them alone. I want to go back to lynching. Like, I get it, but relax. Man, shut the up, okay? You got me, okay? You got me, because I'm a racist person.
But it's less about the actual clip and more so about the headlines. According to the reports I've seen, it seems as though that Hasan Piker is going to be suing the living shit out of Scott Jennings, and rightfully so. This is disgusting. Not only is it disgusting to Hasan, it is actively trying to weaponize Black people, right? Like, I'm not paid the big bucks to be Olivia Pope, so I can't really tell you if Abdul El Sayed is supposed to campaign or not campaign with Hasan. But what I will say is that whatever Dr. Sayed decides to do, the mainstream media is still going to try to use Hasan Piker as a proxy. Now, before I get into the full-on conversation about Francesca Hong, I do want to go ahead and just say this. I am not an advocate for the idea of vote blue no matter who. That has been historically weaponized by the Democratic establishment to get their base to basically vote for like the Lockheed Martin candidate of the year. My most centrist opinion in this video is going to be that both the left and liberals have not lived up to the idea of vote blue no matter who. Like, nobody can tell me that if Bernie Sanders won in 2016, that the liberal establishment was going to support Bernie Sanders against Donald Trump. A lot of those individuals would have probably sat out, similar to what we saw with Bernie supporters. And in 2024, you had leftists actively sitting out against Kamala Harris because they believe that Harris did not live up to their principles. So I say all of this to say that nobody has lived up to the ideas of vote blue no matter who. In my day-to-day, I hang out with leftists, liberals, communists, socialists, anarchists, all of the ist. And what I've gotten to is all of them hate the Democratic establishment just as much as I do.
Where you said Americans should cancel Thanksgiving, should have done this in 1621. The post has been deleted. Republicans have been highlighting it. Do you still believe that Thanksgiving should be canceled?
I'm a chef. And one of the first meals that I made that was for the community when I was 16 was a Thanksgiving meal. You know, I always think my hospitality background in owning a restaurant for 7-8 years, that bringing folks around the table to share conversation and build community is always a good thing. But Thanksgiving is also a time that's incredibly painful for many people in our communities. And so I think I wanted to make sure that people understood that there are multiple views, but views can evolve.
I was not a fan of Francesca Hong as a general candidate. And no, it's not because she wasn't supportive of Thanksgiving, and more so to do with the fact that she wasn't a good political athlete. And because we exist in this reactionary hell, anybody that is anti-Trump is going to constantly be asked about the previous quote unquote woke positions. And Francesca Hong has an argument that she can make in regards to the Thanksgiving tape. There was a way for Hong to answer this question that allowed for her to acknowledge her stance on the issue of Thanksgiving while also being able to pivot. Francesca's a chef. Francesca is running on affordability. She could have used this question as an opportunity to advocate for a more affordable Thanksgiving. There are ways for her to massage this question. And it just felt as though every single clip I saw of Francesca, she was fighting for her fucking life. If you listen to her, her points aren't terrible. But we exist in a freaking country where the average American is not listening for nuance. And
I mean, her performance in the lead up to the primary was solvable. Those weren't like it just never was it was never that big of a problem because you could just absolutely solve it with like tighter comms, you know? Latest for The Guardian on how Abdul El-Sayed's campaign has energized voters who lost hope in the Democratic Party in 2024 over Gaza. I spoke to Trump, Harris, and Stein voters along with leaders of the Uncommitted Movement and the People's Coalition. Nice.
nuance points. Can we be honest? I beg. As we discussed in my previous video, there has been this talking point that has been floating around that establishment basically equals the N-word. And David Crowley decided to present that argument to Wisconsin voters. I actually agree with David Crowley in regards to the term establishment being incorrect in regards to him. It seems as though that he did a lot of work as a public servant, but he hasn't really served in the highest levels of American politics. He's never been governor, he's never been a congressional member, and he's never been a senator. And Crowley doesn't seem like somebody that was created in a DNC lab. I actually think Crowley is more so a corporate Democrat and less so an establishment figure. And I do think people like us who are using the term establishment as a pejorative do definitely need to come.
She's not wrong. She's not wrong. He's gonna be an establishment Democrat. She's basically saying he doesn't even have enough experience. She's saying he's a corporate Democrat. We use establishment and corporate paired up with one another. But David Crowley doesn't have enough experience to be considered an establishment Democrat. So in that regard, she's not wrong. We use establishment as a term for right-wing Democrat, as a term for corporate Democrat, as a term for a do-nothing Democrat. But technically, when you say establishment Democrat, you're talking about figures that range from Debbie Wasserman Schultz to Jim Clyburn. And David Crowley is not established enough to be an establishment Democrat. He is not a figure that comes from entrenched power. I guess the only thing you could say is if he is sympathetic to the goals of the establishment, then you can call them an establishment Democrat. So you're admitting we use it pejoratively? Yes. Yes, I am admitting that. What are you talking about? It's a pejorative only for us. Being established is not a negative thing for people in positions of power. It's reflective of how the party is unpopular. The fact that establishment Democrat can be considered a pejorative is a direct, it is proof. It's further evidence that the Democratic Party is fucking up. Tony Evers is the establishment Democrat, and he got the establishment nod and the endorsement of the consolidation.
Come up with a rubric as a way to distinguish between who is actually an establishment and who is just a corporate Democrat. I use the term corporate advisedly because based off of what David Crowley himself has said, he does seem like somebody that is more so accepting of this neoliberal framework. I don't know where Crowley has been, but the corporations he's trying to coax into coming to Wisconsin are corporations that are actively working with the Trump administration. Now, even though I agree with David Crowley when he argues that he's not an establishment figure, we do need to be honest about the very much omnipresent establishment figure behind him, Tony Evers. He ended up leaving the race, was pulled back into the race by Tony Evers, and Evers was able to work his magic behind the scenes to basically push Crowley to the forefront. So basically, I'm saying that, yes, you may not be of the establishment, but don't be confused why people are calling you an establishment candidate when you're literally on behalf of the establishment. You know what I mean? Like, as we discussed in the previous video, and as we discussed in this video, electability is this omnipresent question that is over the heads of every single Democratic voter. I think most voters were actually put off by the fact that Francesca Hong wasn't able to have a good enough answer to a very simple question, and less so her actual political position on the Thanksgiving question. If that was AOC, if that was Mamdani, if that was Dr. Abdul El Sayed, if that was John Ossoff, if that was Barack Obama, they would have been able to maneuver out of that situation. Before I start, I want to go ahead and say this. I think AOC is good people, right? Like, I'm not one of those people that is apprehensive to AOC. I like AOC. And I personally think that AOC would be a good representative for the left. She's not perfect, but no fucking candidate is. And I think one of the main ways that we can make sure that AOC is ready and prepped for 2028 is by making sure that when she does something that people don't agree with, that people speak up about it. I don't believe in this whole idea of kissing politicians' ass. Call these niggas out. Call them out. They work for you. And that means if you have to call out Zohar Mamdani, AOC, Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, call all of them out. Recently, AOC was on ABC, I believe, with John Carl, and she was asked specifically about Francesca Hong. And AOC's answer would specifically focus on this phrasing of woke 1.0. This was a phrase that I initially saw on Twitter, and I believe it was created by a local New York City councilman, as AOC mentioned in the video.
Right. I mean, I think that a lot of these races, even right now, they'll have a tendency to be nationalized. Yeah. But these races ultimately are local, and all politics are local. My understanding is that that Francesca Hong has made clear her present stances to her electorate.
Yeah, she's moved away from a lot
of that. Right, she's moved away from it. And I have a local city councilman that has this saying woke one was crazy.
Woke one was crazy. Okay, that's interesting.
And I think that what's important is that we have to assess what
was it. I mean, did the movement go too far with some of those positions? I mean, you briefly supported the idea of defunding the police.
Well, you know, I think that during this time, and especially during COVID, there was a huge opening of the overtime window. We were shut down. There was some of the highest unemployment rates that we have seen because of those shutdowns. Yeah. And I think that the doors were really open in trying to entertain any and every policy that was going to get us to a better place.
One of the main reasons why I don't like this conversation, and I don't like this whole woke 1.0 versus woke 2.0 thing, is that if you really think about it, if you really like deep it, we're basically buying into right-wing framing. We're basically buying into the woke mind virus framing. We're buying into what Fox News calls the Great Awakening. Fox News turned that into a pejorative alongside terms like DEI and alongside terms like CRT. And you have one of the most popular, one of the most visible leftists in America, somebody that is emblematic of the American left, getting on TV and just cackling. Like, what does it say that AOC thinks that in order for her to win in 2028 and in order for her to become president, that she feels the need to detach herself from a lot of people's political awakening in 2020? What does it say that the very top echelon?
I think everyone has their own personal interpretation of what this meant. And if you're like, if you're more charitable to AOC, you have a more charitable interpretation. If you're less charitable to AOC, you have a less charitable interpretation. I don't think there's like one universal principle that people are talking about. And I can't speak for AOC at all, but I've told you guys what I believe about like the woke one was crazy, because there were social excesses, and it made like these were the same things that I was arguing against even back then, you know. The same idea of just like coming across as unapproachable, coming across as like coming across as rather draconian in our policing of behavior and language. Not to say that there isn't any appropriate instances of policing language, right? But it's just there were a lot of instances where people were just being kind of fucking lame and annoying. That's it. That's at least my assessment of it. Yeah, just like point of privilege, just not communicating with others in the way that in the way that one does with their friends, being a lot more forgiving and a lot more charitable to people in the real world. When all of the activism is taking place online, you can be a lot more hardened in your positions and unnuanced and outright aggressive. It also wasn't a moral failure of the left because they were still and are still on the righteous side. It's just you can't be self-righteous about it. You know, because we're trying to get people to understand our positions. We're trying to get people to overcome a lifetime of social conditioning. It's very difficult. You always say don't accept the opposition's framing. This is kind of that. No, that is a valid critique to make about this woke 1.0 framing, but it's not the opposition's framing. It's my framing as well, which is why I have a hard time. It's why I have a hard time trying to push through this, because I don't think you should ever drop the policies. I'm not advocating for that, and I will always stand against anyone who does advocate for that. You know, for me, it's not accepting oppositional framing, because, like, think about it this way. I never did that for anti-DEI initiatives. I never did that for defund the police. And I've never demanded people do that for any of those things, right? Because I understand what the purpose of that is. My argument always is just we have to be more appealing. We have to be more understanding of social conditioning, and we just have to be more appealing when we present our side. Just because our side is morally correct doesn't mean that people see it as such.
Of the DSA and the very top echelon of the insurgent left feel as though that intersectional politics and intersectionality, specifically intersectionality that has to do with the plight of Black people and has to do with over-policing in Black communities is no longer advantageous to the movement. Not to also point out the obvious, but if we would have taken the idea of demilitarizing the police seriously, a lot of the stuff that we currently see with ICE would not be happening.
Yup.
A lot of the stuff that we currently see happening with Iran would not be happening. Because on a surface level, a lot of us would be more conscious of how our taxpayer dollars are being used to harm individuals within our community. And we would be more apprehensive to bombing children abroad if we would have taken 20.
I also do think that the real thing that killed woke 1.0 and ushered in the era of woke 2.0 was kind of Israel. A lot of like Zionist advocacy organizations really went above and beyond claiming anti-Semitism. Like claiming that the woke position was to be pro-genocide. And people were like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's not the case at all. When the overwhelming majority of the wokes, the quote-unquote wokes, were like, yeah, this is ridiculous. This is a genocide. This is unacceptable. And a lot of the NGOs that get, funding from Zionist groups and Zionist donors were still carrying out this NGO-backed messaging in a way that Hillary Rodham Clinton did against Bernie Sanders, the whole Bernie Bros narrative, right? In a way that they're still doing to me. Hassan is anti-Black. Hassan is transphobic. Hassan is homophobic. Hassan is misogynistic. Hassan is anti-Black. That is literally a weaponization of non-intersectional, hollowed-out identity politics. Yeah, woke is when you acknowledge facts like the existence of Puerto Rico and Guam. It's similar to how the pro-Israel diehards have started treating basic descriptions like occupation and settler as anti-Israel dog whistles. Lo and behold, this person also is a huge Hasbara operative. Well, not huge, but he's tiny and irrelevant, but doesn't really matter. Hasbara operative nonetheless.
2020 seriously, we would not exist in a world where ICE is kidnapping people. We would not be in a world where Jail Group is able to do all of these heinous things at these different detention centers and then also basically sell their services in regards to Palestine.
I'm sorry, but you're holding on to it because it's the easiest parry when you're trying to argue for less academic and scoldy tactics. Just find another argument. Let this one go. Sorry, big dog, but your personal interpretation doesn't override the pervasive nature of right-wing reframing. You got to interrogate this a bit, in my opinion, more in my opinion. There's a space for changing rhetoric, but it's not through poking holes in the woke for the right wing to ram through. No. Because people yelled at me even back then when I said this exact same shit. Sometimes in the exact same ways. Because I have been a champion of rehabilitation and I've always demanded charitability for myself and for others as well who don't agree with us, don't see the world with our eyes, right? Always. I've never stopped doing that. And back then, when I would say this, people would yell at me. And they'd say, oh, this is emotional labor. You're demanding emotional labor from me, all this shit. So no, of course I'm not going to quote unquote give up on this, because I think it's very important. It's important for people to try to pummel through it, to try to fucking force themselves through these barriers and just kind of eat it at times even, so that you can actually get people on board. Because our enemies, due to their ideological and structural positions, can just get away with it. They can sit there and they will always describe their positions. They will always make the argument. Part of it is because if you're white and you're making a pro-white supremacist argument, you can lean into the structural forms of violence to make it seem like you're not actually demanding additional kinds of violence. And then the other way that you can get away with it is because when you're white, you're not being dehumanized, as opposed to white supremacy and how it dehumanized black people. So of course there's the emotional labor argument doesn't work in the same way if you're a white kid making an advocacy for white supremacy. Having said that, we still have to do it. We still have to push through.
Books I would recommend reading, especially if you're somebody like me that cares a lot about the intersectional analysis between black.
Just read the Sean tweet and keep it moving. Yeah, no, this is the best example of it. Yes, there's already a word for this. It's called liberalism. The term woke being assigned to a catch-all term for liberalism removed the original meaning, was the express goal for the right, and you morons fell for a hook, line, and sinker. But like, I agree with this. It's non-intersectional, hollowed out identity politics being weaponized oftentimes towards people's left flank. Republicans do it to their Democrat counterparts. Democratic Party counterparts are to the left flank of the Republican Party broadly, and they will weaponize it in the same way. Like the example I always use is Gavin Newsom. Okay. And then establishment centrist Democrats will deploy this perhaps most successfully to their left flank, which are the insurgents. It doesn't work in the opposite direction. Nobody gives a fuck. The retort always is, yeah, fuck you, I don't care.
People and the plight of Palestinians and Arab Americans, this is a really good book to read. Angela points out a lot of the same tools and a lot of the
Sean is disagreeing with you. He doesn't say this is woke excess. He says it's liberalism. No, Sean and I agree that it is liberalism. He just thinks that it's capitulation to right-wing framing when you center it around woke 1.0 or woke 2.0. It's a messaging technique. It's a messaging tactic that him and I disagree with. But we fundamentally are not at odds on this argument at all. And everybody says because it is. And my argument always is, I'm the king of woke. I'm still woke as fuck. So it's not like I'm saying I both use it as ironically, as a pejorative at times, but it's just an optics conversation at that point. We don't disagree on the fundamentals. We're saying the exact same thing. He thinks it's an optics. To lean into the optics is to give a concession to the right that they do not deserve. I think that language evolves over time, no matter what we say and do, and that I both at times will say I'm woke, obviously, and also will use it as a pejorative too.
Same tools and a lot of the same companies and a lot of the same organizations.
I've never conceded on. I've never made concessions. I have never ever made concessions on the policy side, on my advocacy.
Saw being weaponized against individuals in Ferguson are some of the same exact companies and some of the same exact tech that was weaponized against Palestinians. I say this to say that this idea, this belief that woke 1.0 is a phase and woke 2.0 is a different phase is incorrect. Not to get on my horse, but all of our struggles are interconnected because they're all coming from the same exact same companies, organizations, and systems.
Which boundaries does Israel recognize? They understand that there are 4 sets that are talked about. Which boundaries do they recognize?
After 4 months of negotiation, Resolution 242 was voted for by Israel, but has never been sanctioned by the PLO. And for the contents
Why
of
would you wait
242...
for someone you don't recognize to sanction anything?
What'd you say?
My God.
That was kind of clear, Bill. Why would you wait for someone you don't recognize to sanction anything? The UN, that is respected for its 48 petition boundaries, is disrespected in its appeal to honor the boundary.
Like, we could talk about how at some point everybody started sounding like a PhD academic in normal conversation. We could talk about the Wakandification of the Democratic Party and everybody dressing in kente cloth. We could talk about the performativeness of KFC having a BLM chicken fist, of seeing white affluent liberals using terms like Latinx and posting black squares.
Ain't no fucking way. I don't even remember this. What the fuck? No, this isn't real, right? There's no way. There's no way. I mean, dude, I've talked about this extensively. Corporate nullification and co-optation of real, legitimate issues of social justice. Wokeness, in the way that it was designed in quote-unquote woke 1.0, is quite literally the most like fake manufactured version of actual demands for social justice. But also, that's not the reason why people have criticisms against it. By and large, America is a very reactionary country. I don't believe this is real. Reuters says it's not real. Fact check, KFC did not tweet drumstick image. Okay, thank God. Okay.
We can talk about all those things. Like, if the argument was that we're going to change the way that we talk about these specific issues, but we're still going to try to find ways to implement these policies, then I could be on board. Then maybe I could be on board. However, something tells me in the back of my mind.
Wait. While the picture was once used by a regional KFC account, the tweet shown in the screenshot is not authentic. The image was shared by the Instagram account of KFC Trinidad and Tobago in 2020 to mark Emancipation Day. Ain't no way. Ain't no fucking way. Ain't no way. So it is a real tweet. Oh my God. Oh my God. It was KFC Trinidad and Tobago that posted it. Oh my God. It just wasn't about BLM. It wasn't about Black Lives Matter. Let's talk about KFC's Black Power drumstick. Why is it bad optics? Because the association of black people and fried chicken is a pernicious racial stereotype. This is from sentientmedia.org. Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. Lordy, lordy. KFC Trinidad deleted this ad to acknowledge Trinidad and Tobago's August 1st Emancipation Day from its social media after some well-deserved backlash. Another reason to diversify your marketing teams and organizations. It's okay to laugh, to express your shock and anger.
I don't know if it's history or if it's multiple instances of the broader American left throwing black issues under the bus because they did not find it advantageous to their broader plan, makes me a little apprehensive by AOC and Zora Mamdani, both individuals that are byproducts of Woke 1.0, because not to point out the obvious, both AOC and Zora Mamdani would not be in the offices that they are in without the power of Woke 1.0. As I pointed out in my previous video, I honestly think Olufemi Atawo's framework on how to talk about this is probably the best by focusing on the elite capture of these movements and talking about how powerful institutions and how powerful elites use this verbiage as a way to keep themselves in power and to keep those that they preferred in power. That allows us to actually focus on those that benefited most from the elite aspects of these conversations, instead of just missing the language and the verbiage of the BLM movement and the CRT movement. That would allow us to hold the Nancy Pelosi's of the world accountable for their cosplay, while also utilizing intersectionality as a way to build a broad-based coalition, as the term was initially created to mean. If the insurgency is currently buying into this idea of right-wing framing around issues like BLM and defunding the police, what's to stop them from basically doing the same shit in 2030 when it comes to the pro-Palestinian movement and when it comes to the idea of abolishing ICE? Not to be conspiratorial, but if a group of people have already shown me that they have no backbone in regards to issues that they initially fought on behalf of, what is supposed
Respectfully, I think you're overestimating or influencing people's general opinion of you here. Fox and the right absolutely have a much larger reach and more control over the MSM narrative than you do, and vast majority of people do not know that you're the king of woke. You come across as a cishet white dude telling marginalized people that you're abandoning intersectionality and not championing woke issues. It reads as a racist dog whistle. This is exactly what I was really annoyed by for the duration of like the 2020s, the early 2020s, because I have already explained my position on this issue 750 million times. And then someone will immediately come in and go, listen, you're doing a bodies in spaces, sweetie. And then I fucking flip on the chatter. And then when I flip on the chatter, someone fucking clips it and then goes, Hassan absolutely despises social progress. Oh, it's so funny too, because it's like, on the one hand, the first hour of the show is literally the entire media apparatus calling me a Muslim terrorist that wants to do Islamic Sharia, and everybody understands how racist that is. And then the second half of the broadcast, when I say, hey, listen, like, I think we should be more palatable, more appealing with our demands with our advocacy, with our demands for social justice. And then the second half of the broadcast is people calling me a cishet white man who's out of touch and out of step with the demands of people of color, BIPOC. Such is the nature of the Turk. It is what it is.
Supposed to make me believe that they're willing to do it in regards to those issues. Aren't defunding the police and abolishing ICE basically cousins? And if AOC and the broad American left have already bought into the idea that defunding the police was just this crazy woke era that they went through, then what's to say that...
Yeah, I think if politicians are doing that, it's unacceptable. That's my point. And I'm not so certain as to all politicians doing that, but only time will show.
Abolishing ICE is not just another crazy woke era that they're going through. What's to stop Republicans
With all
and...
due respect, most black people do not believe that our request for change can be made more palatable, which is part of the problem. I understand that. But I'm a messenger. So I'm always going to try to explain the position no matter what.
Democrats from arguing that abolishing ICE is just another crazy era. After making that video, I've seen a lot of videos and conversations around what exactly is the disconnect between black voters and the broader DSA. This leads us into our section about the black voter paradox. As mentioned in my previous video, black voters are the most supportive of the DSA, but black voters don't seem to be that supportive of DSA candidates or DSA aligned candidates. So why is that? And is there potentially something we can do to try to close this gap? Now, before I provide what I think is a great answer, if you personally ask me, to this question, I do want to go ahead and just point out the obvious. I am one singular voter, which means I am one individual that is a part of a larger community. I emphasize this because as I mentioned throughout this video, voters are not monolithic, no matter what group they're from. So it is beneficial for politicians as well as organizations similar to the DSA to actively engage with each individual voter instead of just taking my analysis as a catch-all for all of the nuances and the complexities of the Black community. One of the main things that I want to bring back up that I touched on in my previous video is the generational divide between older Black voters and younger Black voters. Similar to what we've seen with other groups, there's a huge generational divide within the Black community when it comes to this idea of socialism. As we've seen with the broader populace, Black voters under the age of 45 are more understanding and accepting of socialism, and the DSA.
Perfect example of DSA leadership ignoring its blind spots. From what I heard, they've little to no communication with Angie after her primary win. This is by far her biggest electoral victory a DSA member has ever had, and she did it by making a completely inverse coalition to the normal DSA ones. They should be begging her to accept their help. Well, I think you guys are reading quote unquote the tea leaves in that assessment a little too much. You're reading a little too hard into it. You don't know what the campaign wants. And I'm telling you this as someone who's obviously had a little bit more experience with campaigns. You don't know. All I'm saying is we don't know. We don't know. Angie might not want it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that that's the case. I don't have additional information here, right? But it's a statewide race. She's probably engaging in this balancing act right now, and I think we're making assertions about what the DSA is doing and isn't doing, and I don't think you know what's going on behind the scenes at all, and I don't either. I don't either. My argument is yes, DSA, regardless of endorsement or not, should be door knocking for Angie, even if she opposes the endorsement. But it's very funny that like the establishment Democrats in the state are aggressively coming after her to sever those ties no matter what. I'm telling you how you come across the marginalized people. I'm not telling you how I feel about it. I am aware of your position on things. I'm just giving you feedback on how your message comes across to people outside this community. I know. I understand that. I understand that you were making an argument as to how people see me outside of this community. And I was saying it's fucking frustrating. Okay? Because not to do this, but like my feelings get hurt a little bit too. You know that, right? When I have to like dodge landmine after fucking landmine every goddamn day. And then I hear about how like I come across as an out of touch cishet white guy. Yeah, I know I do. Okay. I'm a human being as well. Okay. I've spent my entire life advocating for these sorts of for these causes. So it doesn't feel great when I hear all the time after eating a barrage of fucking racialized animus on a daily fucking basis, the idea that I'm also coming across as out of step and out of touch with the issues that pertain to communities of color. That was my point.
As a movement, while older Black voters seem to be more supportive of the Democratic establishment. Generational divide within the Black community is similar to the generational divide that we see with other communities. The issue of race is compounded by a multitude of other factors. For example, in regards to the Congressional Black Caucus, that's an issue of age and also an issue of proximity to power. We also need to focus on the obvious class disparities between the very upper echelon of the Black community as well as the very poor, amongst us. I say this to say that in order to make a multicultural coalition in practice and not only in name, we need to have a wholesale analysis of this issue to just a class issue, to just the age issue, or trying to strip race out of the analysis. And as I mentioned within the previous video, there definitely is an age dynamic. There is a generational gap. However, individuals under the age of 45 within the Black community have also spoken up about the DSA's race issue. After making that video, a lot of people have asked me, what exactly can leftists do to try to mend these fences and close this gap? The answer is pretty simple. Talk to Black voters. Yes. I know that may not sound satisfactory, but that is the only answer. The only way to actually help mend this gap is by the DSA and organizations within the broader American left actually speaking to Black voters. And instead of buying into this idea that all Black voters are monolithic and therefore the American left should not engage with them or even talk to their issues because obviously those individuals are in the bag for the Democratic establishment, right? Like I've seen some of you niggas argue. The South Carolina primary is coming up, and I've already heard stories, analysis, words about how South Carolina basically means that moderates have it on lock. That right there, if you personally ask me, is some loser ass behavior. Like based off of what I'm seeing, I honestly think a lot of people, especially a lot of people within the Democratic Party, are underplaying the impact of Calais and underplaying how angry Black voters are with the Democratic establishment in regards to Calais. And I honestly do think that there is a path for progressives in the South, but that means that the DSA and the insurgent left overall would have to recruit candidates from in these communities and have to work alongside already established Black voter initiatives that have been trying to register Black voters. I can't speak to the heavyweights within the DSA and what they're doing, but what I can ask is that if you're somebody within my audience, if you're somebody that genuinely wants to build a multicultural coalition in practice and not only in theory, organizations like Black Voters Matter, as well as a bunch of local Black grassroots organizations, have been mobilizing the South as a way to push back against the gutting of the Voting Rights Act. But as LaTosha Brown, as well as other Black organizers have mentioned, post-2024, the Democratic establishment has cut resources to these initiatives. Organizations like Black Voters Matter already have the infrastructure. They need the resources. And if we're able to provide them donations and the necessary resources, LaTosha Brown, as she has been able to do multiple years in a row, will be able to mobilize voters within the South to push back against not only Donald Trump's fascism in hopes of...
What's the actual catch here? It's as simple as talking to Black voters, because surely the DSA has been doing that. Like, how does the organization penetrate these communities? It takes time. We need to be where Black people are. These organizations are not as prominent in Black communities, especially in the South. Okay, that's number one. Because when we're talking about like Like DSA by and large is seen as like a white institution, a white organization. It's not the case, and its electeds are obviously very diverse. But at the end of the day, its membership is like fairly white. And when we're talking about the black communities, we're talking about, you know, Wayne County. We're talking, which by the way, Donovan McKinney, ironically enough, but we're talking about the South. And the reality is, like, there isn't a robust amount of community defense, with the exception of tenants, organizers in the South right now that specifically come from the black community, that target the black community, that want to solve issues within the black community. And it's going to take time. That's all it is. And our black electeds will absolutely help with this. Okay. And eventually we'll be able to build in these communities as well, and bring back younger voters into the fold.
Delivering policies that actually center working class people. I'm recording this video before the Florida primary, and I'm really interested to see what happens with Elijah Manley. I'm trying to see exactly how his campaign works out. Elijah is somebody that is basically following in the same footsteps as Donovan McKinney, as well as Chris Rabb and Summer Lee. I'm also interested in this candidate named Angie Nixon, a black woman that's running as a progressive in Florida as well. I want to go ahead and just bring forth a comment that somebody left that kind of ties into what I'm talking about in regards to the DSA and the insurgent left needing to actually work with organizers within the South. According to this commenter, the DSA doesn't have a black voter problem. They instead have a trust issue problem. Like, black voters are not tied at the hip to the Democratic Party just because they love fucking Chuck Schumer. Like, black voters are in connection with the Democratic establishment because the Democratic establishment has been a useful tool for them. One of the main reasons why Donovan McKinney was able to win his race is because he was already connected to the community that he was set to represent. He emphasized his connections with the black community. He is of the black community. I know it may sound like a shocker to a lot of people, but by speaking to black voters, DSA candidates will most likely strengthen their support with black voters. It's like 1 + 1 = 2. 2 + 2 = knock some fucking doors. Instead of being afraid of South Carolina and buying into this idea that progressives are inherently fucked because the 2028 primary is going to start off in South Carolina, leftists and DSA candidates started working alongside organizations like Black Voters Matter and sending DSA organizers down to the South on behalf of Freedom Summer to register black voters, if not for this election, for the next election, because that allows for the DSA to work alongside one of the most important organizations that is currently on the ground right now when it comes to civic engagement, working alongside black leftists to actually engage with the community, organizers to sit down and sit within the community so they themselves can actually build a sense of trust. Zora Mondani, send me my check, yo. And in most circles, DSA and other organizations are most likely already doing stuff like this, but this needs to be nationalized and this needs to be talked about more, because as I would argue, the black voter base might actually be the DSA's base. But because the broader American left has decided to buy into woke 1.0 right-wing framing, a lot of them are leaving this base behind. I don't want to ever give credit to Candace Owens, but Candace's initial theory that black voters are taken advantage of by the Democratic establishment is not inherently wrong. What is wrong is her solution to the problem. What's wrong about her analysis is the bootlicking and the white MAGA ass kissing that she constantly has to do in order to have any type of proximity to power. So I would argue that instead of looking at MAGA because what the fuck, ew, that black voters instead could use their power and their leverage intra-party wise by leveraging both the DSA versus the Democratic establishment. So in the most realpolitik manner of this, the DSA benefits from black voters benefit.
This is something that we're already doing though, because for the longest time, seniority politics has designed this rot within the Democratic Party's institutions, and the Congressional Black Caucus has played a formative role in this. Okay. And yes, when I say we, I mean like DSA candidates are literally allowing young black politicians, young black activists and organizers to actually go in and sidestep the seniority initiative. This is huge. That's why I said it's going to take some time. But yeah, Maylot Quiros in Denver, Daria Liza. In some respects, even Chris Rabb, Donovan McKinney as well. Like these are, well, Donovan McKinney's a little bit more traditional of a route, and I would say Chris Rabb is a more traditional route as well. But even then, it's like they are not playing by the rules. Whereas the CBC demands that everyone play by the rules. Wait your turn, work through the process, work through the system, and then we'll give you a nod when your time comes. This is a huge opportunity of leverage and boosting for dynamic young black candidates, and DSA is that platform for them. But it'll take some time for people to come to terms with that reality. You know what I mean?
Benefit from the DSA. So therefore, if the DSA wants to build a broad-based multicultural coalition to take down fascism, if they want to actually live up to the ideas of pluralism, they need to knock on some doors in the South. One of my biggest fears is that because the left refuses to understand the importance of a broad-based multicultural coalition in practice and not just in theory, we are going to most likely run into a lot of the same issues that the broader left has ran into in the past. Like while growing up as a kid, I rarely heard about FDR. And that was kind of confusing to me because if you think of FDR, he is a huge progressive icon, basically gave us all of these impeccable social initiatives. But as a kid, I hardly heard about him. And after reading Ta-Nehisi Coates' article, The Case for Reparations, it made sense to me why growing up, I rarely heard of this progressive icon. In his piece, The Case for Reparations, Ta-Nehisi Coates cites work from historian Ira Katz-Nelson for his 2005 book, When Affirmative Action Was White. The book specifically focused on key programs that were passed from the 1930s through the 1940s. So FDR's New Deal argues that these initiatives were intentionally designed to benefit white Americans while excluding black Americans. Ta-Nehisi Coates argues in The Case for Reparations, because these initiatives were built on top of the Jim Crow South, came at a time where black people were existing in a system of apartheid within the South. A lot of them did not have access to these initiatives. I make this case to say that class reductionism, specifically when it comes to the progressive left in America, has reared its ugly head before. This commenter points out, I'm for the DSA, but a lot of them seem to think we can build an economic platform without confronting racism. A large portion of this country would rather it burn than minorities get their tax dollars. If you know the history of FDR, you know how economics that don't address race turn out. Because I care about progressive policies and because I care about progressive populism, I want the DSA to win. But if the broader American left refuses to address the obvious elephant in the room because it's too hard or because Marx never wrote a book on racism, y'all are going to be fucked. Due to class reductionism, a lot of black voters are more inclined to align themselves with the Democratic establishment because even though it may just be lip service, at least some liberals are not pushing this very childlike view of American politics that has nothing to do with race and only has to focus on our class differences. Because, may I ask, after the class war, what happens if somebody calls me a nigger? 2024 taught me a lot of things. And one of the main things it taught me was to listen to the different subgroups within our coalition and to not downplay their rightful concerns about issues that they're having that are impacting them. And I'm afraid that some of the conversations that I'm seeing around this specific issue makes it seem as though that a lot of us did not learn the lessons of 2024, and that some individuals within the insurgent left are basically willing to repeat the same exact communication issues that we saw with Harris and the same standoffish approach that certain people within the Harris coalition had towards the issue of Gaza. Good luck, America.
Hassan Piker, you know this guy? And I don't follow these nuts on social media very much. I just don't have time to do it. But this guy Piker, he caused some trouble. And if you haven't seen him, roll the tape.
This is so insane. America deserved 9/11.
Dude, I'm not listening to Bill O'Reilly.
A majority of the Democrats' far-left Senate nominees do not support Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. There's speculation AOC could challenge Schumer in the 2028 primaries, but now bettors are predicting she may be the Democrats' presidential nominee. So the DSA may turn to radical New York City Council member AOC to oust Schumer. He's forcefully criticized the Minority Leader, has the support of Hassan Piker, and is no stranger to posting far-left cringe on social media.
Did you know that some of Bed-Stuy and Crown Heights streets are named after slave owners? Well, I'm on a mission to change that. Do you love the snow? Do you have a zest for manual labor and being cold? I gotta get out of New York City. Wait, I'm not wealthy, nor are the wealthy leaving New York City.
All right, David, we're glad to have you on the show to get your economic perspective and your overall perspective on all of this and these DSA socialist candidates. You know, a lot of them seem to be birthed right here in New York City, as we're seeing with Mamdani and many others, but it's not isolated to New York City, and it's not isolated to blue cities or blue states either. And as much as they want to come for conservatives and President Trump, it seems like the first person on their target list is Chuck Schumer and perhaps Hakeem Jeffries.
Let's talk about Chuck Schumer first, because I'm going to use some fancy words, but his obsequiousness, his unctuousness, his toe-curling, painful fawning of El Sayed the other day was just extraordinary. I wish we could have put that up, but he was just like, I mean, he knows El Sayed hates him. He knows I know El Sayed says he's not DSA, but he essentially is. He follows all of their policies. He wants to rip up the Constitution, et cetera, just like the rest of them. But for him to say how wonderful El Sayed is, knowing that El Sayed would love it if he ends his period in the Senate, at least his period as the leader in the Senate. So he's screwed either way. If the DAS wins, they're going to kick him out as the leader, form a majority of Democrats to kick him out as the leader. And if they lose in November, he'll still be screwed because of the fact that he's essentially been so weak and appeasing of this group. Look at Jared Moskowitz, by the way, the guy who won against Larkin, the socialist who was running in Florida. Now, granted, the district did not favor Larkin as some districts did, and there was a DSA person who won in a district that was more radical. Angie, we'll talk about her later. But the point is that Moskowitz is a Democrat, moderate Democrat, Jewish moderate Democrat who stuck to his guns, has a bit of a backbone, wasn't afraid of the DSA, gave them hell, made it very clear that they in no way are fit for office with all of the things that they've and he won. He won by almost 2-1. You guys did a brilliant job, by the way, last week in talking to Larkin, the guy that Moskowitz won against. You really spelled out very clearly exactly how radical he was. Something that Schumer had an opportunity to do. He didn't do it. Moskowitz did. Moskowitz won, and I think Schumer is going to lose.
Well, that's the discussion that's going to be had in the Democrat Party. I'd love to be on the fly on the wall for those discussions. The Democrats are probably missing the leadership of Nancy Pelosi, I would assume. She was able to keep the squad at bay to some extent.
It was a different time.
It was a different time, but she also ruled with an iron fist, and you don't have that so much on the Democrat side anymore. Joey, in talking about these socialist candidates, and Angie Nixon is one that you alluded to here, when you see them in interviews, not only are they trying to moderate themselves, which is probably wise, but if you dig just a little bit deeper, you take a couple layers off that onion, when questioned about their deeply held convictions, it kind of falls apart under even light scrutiny.
Yeah, the thing is the candidates try to moderate themselves, but the people that they say represent their policy position and platform, the leaders in the DSA movement, don't moderate themselves at all. I mean, look at Hassan Piker. I mean, that's an easy one, but I can't remember her name. I think it was the vice chair of the party that came on the network last week and made a fool of herself in a couple different shows. So, you know, if you join the DSA, then when those people go and talk, they're representing your policy positions. Now, you can argue nuance, but things like, you know, abolishing the Senate, I mean, that's a policy position. There's no nuance to that. What I find interesting, if you look at the list of those that are running for Senate in competitive states that say they would get rid of Schumer versus the ones that Democrats say Schumer helped recruit, you've got Peggy Flanagan in Minnesota, El Sayed in Michigan, Troy Jackson in Maine. You know, that's kind of an even split there, with maybe the Maine being kind of the one way or the other. But I think Michigan, yeah, I mean, you're looking at probably one that leans Republican, one that leans blue, and one that may be more of a toss-up. But then you look at who Schumer has endorsed and brought in. You got Roy Cooper in North Carolina, Sherrod Brown in Ohio, Josh Turek in Iowa. All three of them have a really good chance to win, but it's a competitive state. It's toss-up. And then you've got Peltola there in Alaska, and you would hope that Sullivan can hang on to it, but you don't know. And so what I mean by that is you might have an actual scorecard that says whether Schumer has earned the right to be the Senate majority or.
Yeah. None of that looks good for Republicans, by the way. I love that they talk about like Schumer's potential, Schumer's future in the party and shit. But we're talking about states that were never in play, big dog. And I love how much like these guys are invested in the inter-party affairs that they're not even considering their party.
Minority leader at the end of this based on how those candidates do. The battle lines have essentially been drawn.
Alicia, what part does social media play in this? Because if you look at these candidates that are running and winning, that are getting at least support from Democrats, they all have an impressive social media presence and following. Has it become a time in the Democrat Party where your follower count and your engagement algorithm actually matter more than your track record or even your fundraising?
Well, the DSA is taking up all the oxygen in the room for Democrats, and they can't get a word in edgewise when it comes to any semblance of logic that they can cobble together, because they're still trying to figure out in 2026 who they are after they got stomped on in 2024. So, yes, I think social media plays a very large part. I feel like the Democrats are, but they're fighting amongst themselves. The DSA is not the Democratic Party. There are members of the Democratic Party who say that, but then there's some of them are scared to say that out loud. So it's this like big mess that they're still trying to figure out as they're going to start heading into 2028. I think it's a huge problem. But I'm also, to pick up on something Joey said, when we're talking about the DSA and statewide races, they are not a proven entity just yet. And what that means for the Senate will be more important, because if Chuck Schumer is able to pull some people across the line and that number outscores the DSA in any significant way, that will matter.
I think the one thing we know is that the Democrat Party is going to continue to go to the left. Whether the DSA takes it over in the next couple of years or not, they're going to have to move further to the left to appease this grassroots DSA socialist communist hybrid that they've created.
I don't think they know who they want to be. They want to be who's popular, and whatever that means, then they're willing to do it. And so,
Alicia, I would say that they know exactly who they want to be. They just don't want to be honest about it.
Yeah, communism is popular, I guess. Isn't that what this implies, by the way? Also, it is very funny that these guys are now running around and complaining. These guys are now running around and complaining that the DNC doesn't have the same level of influence over the base of support. Like, you're a Republican media operation. Why do you care about whether the DNC has lost its mojo or not? Like, they're defending Chuck Schumer's honor. It's very funny.
Which is why I always say at least the DSA candidates tell you exactly what they want to do, because I think if a lot of these Democrats were honest, they want mostly the exact same things down the list. They're just not brave enough to say it out loud.
By the way, that list also includes, we should forget, getting rid of the military, getting rid of the defense of the United States, defund the Pentagon. I mean, you know, come on, folks. It's not just defund the police. Defund America. That's their platform.
Defund America, but fund those at the top, right? And not those at the top that they often say that they're against. Those at the top is in the reigning class. Yeah. That's how socialism and communism works. All right.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube.
I love that their argument always is like, the argument always turns into, you know, what they want to do is basically, and then they end up describing the current existing system. It's always like that. Oh, look at these fucking DSA goons. They want to do communism, which, as everybody knows, is when the super wealthy make more money and the poor get fucked over. And it's like, yeah, that's the current situation, man. That's kind of the reason why these guys are growing in popularity, don't you think? Yeah, these guys are trying to do insert current problem. Oh, these socialists, what they're trying to do is basically make sure that every home in the country is owned by venture capital. That's classic socialism.
Welcome back. Joining me now is Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland. Senator Van Hollen, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Kristen, great to be with you.
It's great to have you here in person. Thank you so much. Let's dive into the primaries. Angie Nixon, a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, scored an upset win in Florida, as you know, this week. It comes after progressive Abdul Al-Sayed, who we were just talking about, narrowly won in Michigan. You, of course, used to run the Democratic Senate campaign arm. Do you believe Democrats are making an already tough Senate map more difficult by electing candidates who are part of the left wing?
No, I don't. First of all, Democrats are absolutely united in recognizing that President Trump is a threat to our economy and a threat to our democracy. What you're seeing is a churning, a debate within the Democratic Party that's more focused on what the Democratic Party needs to stand for in 2028. And I don't think this is left versus right. I think this is the top 1% that is rigging the economy in their favor at the expense of everybody else. So these are economic populists. And the debate within the Democratic Party was going to be healthy going forward. In this midterm, it's a referendum on Donald Trump. I listened to Senator Scott. He wanted to talk about Joe Biden. He did not want to talk about Trump. He talked about affordability. Let's remind people that Donald Trump said that the affordability crisis was, quote, a hoax, and broke his promise to focus on bringing down prices and keep us out of wars. He's done the opposite.
Well, let's delve a little deeper into this debate that you referenced inside the Democratic Party. Florida Congressman Jared Moskowitz fended off a DSA-backed challenger in his district, and he's taking a very different view of Democratic Socialists of America. Here's what he said about DSA members likely to join Congress.
It's so funny to go to Chris Van Hollen, who is a very well-respected senator, and then being like, hey, what do you think about this like 2-term incumbent in one of the more conservative districts in the fucking country that will never vote for a Democrat? Like, Chris Van Hollen has a lot more power within the fucking Democratic Party than Jared Moskowitz does. The fact that you're like, you might as well bring me up to Chris Van Hollen than fucking Jared Moskowitz, because neither of us are relevant in the power center of the Democratic Party, okay?
Next year, he writes, quote, they're anti-American at their core. People who have said anti-American things and have said things that are pro-Russia and pro-China. Should they really get a security clearance, he asks. Do you think the Democratic Socialists have a place in the Democratic Party, Senator?
Yes, they do, as part of the debate. And in this upcoming election, candidates can be very clear about where they strongly disagree with the DSA, which is probably on most issues. But they can also talk about their own plans. What? So, I'm not afraid of debate. I think that those in the Democratic Party who are afraid of a healthy debate are missing the point, because voters, including Democratic voters, they don't want to simply return to the pre-Trump status quo. They want Democrats who are going to stand for something. And I can strongly disagree with one set of Democrats. But I think that debate is healthy.
Well, okay, talking about the debate, let's talk about the DSA platform. It calls for, in part, replacing the president and Supreme Court with an executive and judiciary chosen by and subordinate to Congress, and, quote, to abolish the Senate, the chamber, of course, in which you serve. Do those ideas go too far for you?
Yes, of course they do for me. And I think a lot of the folks who are running, regardless of where they are on the Democratic spectrum, have rejected those ideas. And so I think when you look at the Democratic Party right now, you're looking at a party that, again, is incredibly united when it comes to making sure we're out there, standing up for working people. We need to end this war in Iran, which is driving up prices. And the reason that Senator Scott didn't want to talk about this election and the issues and didn't want to talk about Trump's record is because you have a rubber stamp Republican.
I wish that we were a little bit more bold. Like, trying to move in the direction of parliamentary democracy is not that fucking scary. You know what I mean? Like, even if you disagree with it, even if you disagree with it and you're a senator, obviously you're gonna disagree with it because you're a fucking senator. You can understand where these people are coming from, and you can be like, look, I don't agree with these people, but plenty of other countries are run in this exact same way. Plenty of our allies operate with this form of governance, and it works well for them. It could work for us. It could not work for us, but that's what the conversation is about. So I'm not going to sit here and immediately decry the DSA for being a scary, terrifying institution, or its ideas as like outright dangerous, especially when some of those ideas that they are pushing for exist elsewhere,
In Senate and rubber stamp Republican candidates who simply want to do Donald Trump's bidding.
And very quickly, would you accept an endorsement by the DSA?
I would not. I'm not going to sort of look into all these endorsements. I'm not going to reject an endorsement by by certain individuals at the DSA. But I'm certainly not seeking the endorsement from the DSA. And I do think, Kristen, that this whole debate is an effort by Republicans, as you heard from Senator Scott, to try to reduce, the turnout for Democrats. I don't think it's going to work, because at the end of the day, what unites Democrats is economic populism.
I don't believe they care about having a Senate as much as they pretend to. Is there anyone in the history of the U.S. who went, I'm glad we don't have a parliamentary democracy, maybe aside from the Republicans? I don't think so. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I just don't care about it one way or another. Like, I genuinely don't. It's not my main concern at all. No disrespect to DSA. It's nowhere near in my top priorities. I'll never, argue against it, because I think it's fine. It's just not, I don't know. There's people getting ripped up. People getting ripped away from their fucking families, Tens of thousands of people dying because they don't have health care. And I know DSA cares about those things, to be fair. I know those are the top level concerns for the DSA as well. It's part of the reason why they constantly fucking lean into this stuff. That's more future focused. And I don't think DSA should shy away from long-term goals that they have. Because the Democratic Socialists of America is not a Democratic Party PR operation. And if that was what they're doing, if DSA was only focusing on election victories, then it would turn into that. It would be just that. So I think the current balance of the DSA, having DSA right that cares about elections, having DSA left that cares about advancing socialism beyond simply immediate election victories, that's a good balance to strike. But yeah, even as demanding broader structural changes, I would say make the Supreme Court have 1,000 justices. You know what I mean? Look, I got some radical ideas. Yeah, 99 Supreme Court justices. Classic one, the gauntlet. Right? Y'all remember the gauntlet? That's a good one, right? If any candidate in any district is at a net negative approval rating, the people elect a champion to engage in the act of fisticuff against the elected representative. This is a process known as the gauntlet. I've been a major advocate for this. I feel like now that I have a lot more attention from the national media, I think it's time for me to put forth my DSA style program, platform. Yeah. Immediately, John Fetterman would be a part of the gauntlet. And we hosted in front of the White House? No, my argument was we hosted on the Senate floor. Or the floor of the House, the House of Representatives, depending. I would put you know how they have the floor? I would create a process in which there's a specific, I would create a specific ring. And yes, I would, of course, film it on C-SPAN. That would also bring a lot more attention to politics and a lot more attention to C-SPAN.
Populism, standing up for working people.
Well, one of the big issues that has emerged, I was talking about this with Senator Scott as well, data centers.
Cowards don't want it to happen. It's fucked up.
There's obviously a major issue in battleground.
A majority of the Democrats' far-left Senate nominee.
Wait, what the fuck? What the hell just happened?
Tensions
All right,
between-
let's talk about U.S.-Canada now.
Neighbors are at a new modern high as President Trump imposes 50% tariffs on a variety of Canadian imports. The talks collapsing late Friday, the Canadians walking out of negotiations with the U.S.
We cannot accept what they've offered, and we will not give what they've asked.
The Trump administration pointing to bans on the sale of U.S. alcohol in Canada, along with protections for Canadian dairy farmers.
We're moving forward with measures that respond to Canadian retaliation.
North of the border, leaders are rallying around the Maple Leaf and blasting President Trump.
He can't be trusted. Simple as that. He changes the deal. He keeps moving the goalpost.
The new U.S. tariffs will touch on just 5% of the Canadian goods that come south, but the list of affected products ranges from Canadian beer and whiskey to hockey sticks, furniture, textiles, and building supplies like cement. American importers will now have to pay a 50% levy to bring those items across the border, and their added costs are likely to be passed on to consumers. President Trump has said tariff is one of his favorite words, and earlier this month he said this about America's northern neighbors.
Canada's nasty. They are. They're nasty. People think Canada, they're nasty. People, I love the people, but they're nasty. Nasty leadership.
Canada's prime minister now vowing to fight back.
Canada will match Washington's new tariffs dollar for dollar in order to protect Canadian workers, farmers, families, and businesses.
Section 338 of the Smoot-Hawley Act, passed at the height of the Great Depression, allows the president to impose tariffs on imports from any country that he finds has discriminated against American commerce. Now, that authority's been on the books since 1930, but it's never been used before like this. Gio?
All right, Stephen Portnoy, thank you so much.
Donald Trump in the last half hour at the Freedom 250 Grand Prix in D.C. He then went on to do a lap in the Beast while the world deals with petrol prices up because of his war with Iran. The rest of America, meanwhile, has been digesting a crisis closer to home.
Trade talks between the U.S. and Canada collapsing overnight.
Canada has declined to finalize a trade deal with the United States.
The US and Canada once had one of the most durable trade alliances in the world. Now negotiations have reached an impasse.
They asked too much, and they offered too little.
The United States has now imposed 50% tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Canadian goods. Canada says it will do the exact same in little over a fortnight. Both countries now facing the risk of a full-scale trade war.
You're at war when you get attacked. We got attacked. U.S. put 50%. We waited until the United States decided to actually implement these so-called 338 tariffs. That's fine. We've got the reserves. We've got the resilience. We've got the plan. We've got the focus. We will respond. Canada will match Washington's new tariffs dollar for dollar in order to protect Canadian workers.
As well as the big, like steel and electronics, it also impacts the small, right down to hockey sticks and, bizarrely, false beards. Both countries blame each other, citing last-minute changes and rowing back on promises. Yet it seemed before the talks broke down on Friday that the US president was confident of getting something over the line.
Have you come to a deal there?
Pretty much, I think so. We'll see. I've dealt with the Prime Minister. I've got a good relationship.
But there has been a pattern of Trump goading the Prime Minister of Canada with public taunts about its sovereignty. When they met at the White House in May last year, Carney was all about the boundaries.
As you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
It seems this weekend Trump has returned to form. This was posted to his Truth Social channel. Canada wants the benefits of being a state without being one. They've also charged our great farmers for many years massive amounts of tariffs. No more. Canada's politicians are insisting that the country has lots of other dance partners out there, responding with a unified front even across party divides and in areas where much of its manufacturing is based.
We're going to be a united team Canada as Donald Trump is trying to inflict pain on every Canadian, that we inflict pain right back until he realizes that we're his #1 customer in the world.
In April last year, Trump called it
Liberation Day,
slapping tariffs on much of the world. Billions of dollars were later refunded after the Supreme Court ruled it was all unlawful. Canada insists this latest breakdown liberates no one, that a trade deal was possible, but this wasn't it. The distance between the two countries may be small, but the gulf has rarely been wider.
Hello, Prime Minister. Mackenzie Gray with Global News. I'm hoping you can tell us what the specific last-minute changes that the Americans proposed that made a deal untenable.
Thank you for the question. Look, I would say two things. One is there are some specifics, and I'll give you some examples, but it was also a cumulative aspect, as I mentioned in my remarks, about the willingness dans l'ensemble in total to enter into a true economic partnership. But in terms of specifics, I'll give you three, and I know there's other questions. First, with respect to the auto industry, both in terms of the level of the tariffs, the treatment of Canadian content, so Canadian parts, Canadian steel, Canadian content in vehicles, the scope of the tariffs. The Americans wanted to limit it to autos only, not include medium and heavy autos and light trucks, to be more specific, not include medium and heavy duty trucks, which is a big change, obviously. And with respect to Ford's new plant, for example, in Oakville, which is F-350s, 450s, 550s, they would have been excluded. GM Silverado, same thing, would have been excluded from that. No rationale, just for exclusion. So effectively moving into a series of terms that would made the production more uneconomic over time. Okay, so that's a change. That restriction, that clarification, that precision was a change. The U.S. introduced at the last hours, efforts to restrict our ability to have other trade deals. You heard me say a moment ago what we've accomplished in the last year, 20 new deals, economic and security partnerships, the prospect of doubling our market access because we believe in free trade. We're the partner of choice in many respects for countries around the world, and the Americans wanted to restrict that. They had language that they wanted to restrict that. Unacceptable. And I'll give you a third, et peut-être on peut discuter plus en français. Continual efforts, always resisted, as I said in my remarks, and always will be resisted, efforts to restrict our protections of our language, our culture, and in effect, our sovereignty. So elements coming in, ramping up, any of them individually, but collectively put us in a position where what had been on a trajectory, absent those elements, for a fair deal, a good deal for Canadians, not perfect, but a good deal, a deal we would not accept.
Follow-up, question suivie. Was Howard Lutnick's involvement in the last days an impediment to getting a deal?
It's a question.
This was at a private Republican donors event, not just J.D. Vance, but lots of senior Republicans were there. Now, it must be said, J.D. Vance said that Mark Carney was a very sweet guy before he frankly went on to ridicule the Prime Minister and certainly these talks. Let's have a look at some of the quotes from this private function. Mr. Vance said that Carney comes in and puffs his chest out and says, I'm going to, out-tough Donald Trump. It's hilarious because Carney presents this as some victory for Canada when fundamentally, they climbed down on a lot of issues. And then he goes on to say, interestingly, but the quiet sort of behind-the-scenes stories is that this, random MP who's had a good relationship with us has been a pretty effective advocate. Now, that MP is Jamil Juvani, of course, the Conservative MP. We know he's a very good friend of J.D. Vance. We're told by Mr. Vance himself that he has inserted himself into these negotiations. Now, we heard from Mr. Trump on Wednesday. He suggested, of course, that he had a good relationship, a very nice relationship with the leadership right now, and also said that this was a good deal for everyone. But then Mr. Vance also kind of doubled down on that, if you like, in this speech. He said that Trump is not trying to bend over to make Canada happy, but saw that there was an opportunity here to get some wins for the country. And the whole point of this is to change Canada's behaviour, which they, not entirely, but they've shifted in a Trumpian direction, according to Mr. Vance. Now, I think there's two things at play here. One of them is, obviously, this is JD.
Dude, this Canada shit is so funny. I mean, it's already locked in. I think Mark Carney will never lose another election for the rest of his life. As long as he lives, as long as he continues to survive, he probably will be he probably will be, unfortunately, Canada's greatest leader in the eyes of Canadians. He's going to have like 70% support no matter what, because Donald Trump fucked it. Donald Trump fucked it in ways that, look, Avi is my guy. I love Avi Lewis. It just sucks because what Donald Trump did in terms of demanding that Canada change its French language, Quebec culture, and Canadian identity as a condition for reversing tariffs. You literally could not have designed a better position for the Liberals. Okay? You could not have designed a better position for the Liberals. The power center for the Liberals comes from the Quebecois. The Quebecois that vote for him, that vote for the Liberal Party because they see the Liberals as being like defensive to Francophone, like the preservation of French culture and the language and things like that. 30% of the seats in Parliament are GC. Don't you think this was also bolster Bloc Québécois? I don't think so. The only reason why I say that is because, I mean, look, every time, for the record, anytime Trump attacks Canada, Mark Carney wins. Okay? Anytime Trump attacks Canada, Mark Carney wins. That's literally why he won. And anytime Donald Trump comes out and says, like, fuck Canada, and Mark Carney comes out and says, well, fuck you back, you know, Canada is no longer just America's hat or whatever, its popularity gets a boost. Portland Chud agitators trying to harass you tonight, maybe streaming from crowd. Good to know. Thank you. I forgot that there's a lot of Chuds in Portland. I mean, they'll just get kicked out if they try to do some shit. It's not all bad. At current polling, the NDP is posed to overtake the Conservative Party as the opposition party in the House so they can actually push for better left legislation with the Libs hoping. Not sure if Carney will go with it, but still. Anyway, Donald Trump coming out and talking about like eradicating the extraordinary demands that they made. Summary of the key demands in the 2026 Canada-U.S. trade negotiations. Were totally ridiculous. Veto over strategic infrastructure partnerships, preemptive trade restrictions on non-U.S. nations, mandates forcing Canada to match U.S. sanctions, export controls. It just entirely removes Canadian sovereignty from the process. And by way of tariffs, Donald Trump thought he could do a de facto annexation of Canada, I guess. And yeah, obviously Canada's going to say no to that. It's ridiculous. Why would anybody say yes to that? So now it's not happening.
Evans talking to a private Republican event, so he is essentially boasting about this deal in a political way. I mean, at the end of the day, the Americans are trying to convince the other Americans that this is a good deal. So it's quite difficult to work out how much this is domestic posturing versus what the reality might actually be.
I'm going to go through why we're walking away from a bad deal and what comes next. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. You're at war when you get attacked. We got attacked. We've been under no illusions. We recognized from...
Yeah, it's not just French dictating Canadian trade policies, priority access to minerals, the ability to snap back tariffs at any time. It was a... I guess it was like a soft vassalization without military annexation, right? Without like a military occupation. It was by way of Donald Trump coming in and saying, we're going to tariff the fuck out of you. And then at the last minute, turning it into a vassalization agreement. Like you give us your minerals, you have no say in the matter, you have no say in your own personal you have no economic freedom, you have no economic sovereignty. We control every aspect of Canadian governance, and there's not really anything you can do.
From the start that America has changed.
Like turning Canada into, I guess, America's Belarus.
Recognize that sometimes its signature was written in pencil. The gap between partnership and competitor, unfortunately, has remained too wide in recent days.
The U.S. will now impose a 50% tariff on many Canadian goods, and Canada will impose retaliatory tariffs.
Let me be clear. We take this step reluctantly. Reluctantly because we recognize that some of these measures will raise costs.
And then classic, just like with Iran, just like with everything else, a U.S. trade official claimed Canada made new demands late in the process before declining to agree to the deal. And it's ironic because, of course, the truth is the exact opposite. Would you be shocked to find out that this is projection? It was actually us. We were the ones who added ridiculous conditions in the last hour.
Last spring.
Also, I'm going to talk about Sean Duffy in a second. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy also says something fucking insane about Canada.
I warned that America is trying to break us so they can own us. And I promise that that will never, ever happen. We are keeping that promise.
Hey, everyone. It's been a minute since I...
So... where was it? Yeah, Transport Secretary Sean Duffy on Fox News. On Canada Trade Talk said, it's a country that doesn't have a military. I think you're going to see Mark Carney come to the table very, very quickly.
Washington.
Well, listen, they were just in Canada, and there's news this weekend of the trade issue that we have going on. Trade talks falling apart. Obviously, they're a major partner for us, back and forth across the borders, planes, trains, and automobiles. DOT has a lot to do with that. Is there anything in your position as Secretary of Transportation that you're thinking about with respect to a tool in this sort of trade war back and forth?
We're great trading partners, right? But Canada gets the benefit of trading with the U.S. way more than the U.S. gets the benefit of trading with Canada. It's a country that doesn't have a military. It has a country that has a single.
That's insane. It's one of those things where, like, is he threatening Canada or is he stupid and he legitimately doesn't know that Canada does have a military? Like, is he saying they're pussies and he's, like, threatening Canada? Or is he actually just dumb as fuck and he legitimately doesn't know that Canada does have a military? Could be both. Could be both. Very funny situation that we found ourselves in. I mean, it's a horrible situation overall. Oh my God. I don't know. I mean, this calcifies liberal rule forever, I think. Anytime Mark Carney's popularity is going down, Trump offers him a layup like this.
Healthcare system that's failing. They have record high euthanasia rates. And so to think that they're going to go to war with Donald Trump.
Does he mean like they're doing euthanasia, or does he mean there's a lot of Asians in Canada? Again, many questions for Sean Duffy. Because he put a pause between youth in Asia. You never know.
Trump and actually win that war with the U.S. I think it's foolish on their part. In Washington.
Well, listen, they were just in Canada, and there's.
It's called Vancouver. Yeah, I mean, Sean Duffy is an MTV Real World guy. So Alex Kosh, news editor, Read the Maple, says, despite this, Canada is increasing its military exports to the USA is continuing to buy weapons from American arms companies. I meant Duffy had to say Canada has no military. Yeah. Anyway, I have to leave for the show soon. So I'm in it at 4 hours today. I didn't even get to talk about Dana Fash going full Fash on Bill Maher. But unfortunately, that's all I got for today, folks. But tomorrow, we're back to business as usual. Tomorrow, we're back to regular ass broadcasts. I need to take a quick power nap as well because I'm freaking dying. This is our third night, our Portland, Oregon show. Very exciting stuff. And yeah.
Years of this plan.
Oops. Love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow for a regular ass stream.
Stunning lo-fi introduction.
And to the Portlanders,
off the
see you
day.
tonight.
Damn, this guy's good.